Peso Roblos.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
Brady and Gronk to come to the Raiders. And at the last minute, Gruden blew the deal up.
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
I was sitting there thinking, you're sticking with that mother...
Today's guests, senior writer for the MMQB, Albert Breer, Fox Sports rules analyst, Mike Pereira, co-host of The Room, Jordan Palmer, co-creator of the AMC series Better Call Saul, Vince Gilligan, and now, it's Rich Eisen.
Yes, it is. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Rich Eisen Show. Thrilled to be here on YouTube like it's the pandemic starting all over again. That's what we used to do here on this program. This is where we're going to be for the time being until the Roku channel opens its doors for you to watch the Rich Eisen Show every single day, 12 to 3 Eastern time. Anybody out there searching for us on Sirius XM, we're off of Sirius XM 85 for the moment. We'll be back on there shortly. We say hello to our Odyssey listeners listening to us coast to coast, as well as the Rich Eisen Show terrestrial radio audience that's out here every single day. Our podcast is the same as is our Odyssey listening and our terrestrial radio listening. It's just the way you watch us and potentially listen to us on satellite that's changed for the moment. But we're pleased to be right here with you on youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. The entire show can be seen here again until the Roku channel, which is free for you to get. It's free of charge. Opens its Rich Eisen Show Sports Zone portal coming up in September. Good to see you over there, Chris Brockman. How are you, sir?
What's up, Rich? I'm great, man.
DJ Mikey D is in D's nuts sitting in that chair. Good to see you, DJ
Good morning,
Mikey D.
Rich.
Mike Del Tufo in his spot. And TJ Jefferson, light the candle after, I guess, we had a little bit of a fire inspection here this morning. I'm glad you're doing this now as opposed to about 10 minutes ago. We might have been fined.
Glad I held off one.
We're just here so we don't get fined, actually. That's the way it's supposed to go here. Good to see you over there, sir.
Hey,
Good to
it's
see
a pleasure, Rich.
Okay, so we've got ourselves a heck of a program here today. Lots of football going on, as you might imagine. We just finished our last football weekend without college football until January. And coming up soon will be the last football weekend that we won't see any NFL football until February. And we got that going on, which is nice. We got all that happening. And then, so on this program, Albert Breer is going to join us in about 18 minutes' time to tell us everything that's going on in the NFL world best he can tell. Mike Pereira will join us on this program because I had a bit of an overreaction last night to Kayvon Thibodeau having his right leg crumpled by Thaddeus Moss coming across the tackle box of the young tight end of Cincinnati and hitting him below the knee. Mike Pereira will come on this program to explain why it's a legal hit, even though it looked particularly nasty to me. So he will be joining us in hour number 2 on all of that front. And then in hour number 2, Jordan Palmer is going to join us as well. And then in hour number 3, Vince Gilligan will be here in studio. That'll be terrific. Vince is the creator of Breaking Bad and also Better Call Saul. He will be here in studio. And interestingly enough, he was the first ever in-studio guest we've had. And that was way back when we opened this place on Audience Network on DirecTV. After which AT&T bought DirecTV and then shuttered Audience Network to send us onto YouTube, to send us on NBC Sportsnet, to send us on Peacock, to send us back to YouTube, to before you join us on the Roku channel. Basically, you can't get rid of us on this program. But we're going to talk about one of our favorite TV shows of all time when he joins us in hour number 3 of this program in studio. And I'll just give you a heads up. There might be a spoiler alert or two out there.
Yeah, we're going to have to.
Well, I mean, it's truly one of the best TV shows of all time, Breaking Bad. And Better Call Saul is one of the greatest sequels that you can ever put on television as well. Spinoff, I guess, is what they say on the television world. So we'll hit on all of that on the program. Now that I've told everyone what's going on, Mike Del Tufo is going to sit back in his chair. He's gone up and back to TJ Jefferson's spot only to destroy it twice and then sit back in his chair. And thankfully, Jay Felly is here as well. There we go. Nice little change. Switcheroo. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm trying to focus on the open of this program.
In the background.
It's not like you were here 2.5 hours before the show to handle whatever you handled and as the show was beginning.
Sure your mic
okay, is your microphone working, TJ?
You tell me.
It does.
There we go.
Hey!
Okay. So,
hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Tom Brady is apparently back in the building in Tampa, Florida. His hiatus from the team that was described as pre-planned, even though it wound up from going pre-planned to open-ended, because Coach Todd Bowles was saying, I kind of don't know when he'll be back. It's he used a lot of the phraseology that you hear from the men and women who work in the NFL information community, where they couch things as expected to. We have plans to. I expect him to be ready for the opener against Dallas on September 11th. But here we are on August 22nd, and he is back in the building. Back in the building in Tampa after he took a leave of absence for personal reasons, and the rumors over the last 10 days have been insane. The number of texts I get from people who say, I'm hearing it's this, I'm hearing it's that. My phone is blown up. And I haven't trafficked in a single one of those rumors to discuss on this program, with the exception of him having left the team so he could shoot the Masked Singer I addressed that as the dumbest rumor I've heard in the 20 years in my association with the NFL.
It was a great rumor, though. It was nice. It was just like it kind of got us through the Friday or whatever day that was. Like,
but we don't do things. We don't do things to get us through. You know?
I understand.
I mean, but I had to address that one.
But it was fun.
I had to address that one. But now he's back just in time to address what I can't believe I'm saying this. Dana White uncorked during a wait for it. This is like a Mad Lib. Like you fill in the proper names because it's just crazy. It's like a child fill this in. He's got to address the rumor, or I guess the fact that Dana White, the UFC, is he the founder, president? What do we call Dana White?
The CEO.
The CEO,
actually, yeah.
the CEO, of UFC. Dana White uncorked during UFC 278 this weekend on the Gronkcast version of the event. And Gronk brought this up, that Dana White brokered a deal for Brady and Gronk to go when Brady was in his walkabout to Las Vegas and play for the Raiders, and John Gruden squelched it. This is the exchange that lit up Twitter and UFC Fight Night on Saturday night.
It's still there. You would have
You would have been. So
I would have been.
I'm the one. I worked to put that deal together for Brady and Gronk to come to the Raiders. And it was almost a done deal. And at the last minute, Gruden blew the deal up and said that he didn't want him. And all hell broke loose, man. It was crazy. And Brady was already looking at houses, and it wasn't being said yet that Gronk was coming. So Las Vegas would have had Brady and Gronk the year that the Bucs won the Super Bowl, except Gruden blew the deal up. And there's so much story that goes along with this behind the scenes, and I was never going to tell that story till Gronk just said it, but yeah.
And Dana,
let me tell you what, Brady
exactly
was
what
not
happened,
happy.
and you just told the story. That is exactly what happened. Wow.
Breaking news. UFC 278 with the Gronk. John Gruden screwed up. County going to the Raiders.
It worked out for the best, and I'm glad it did not go through.
Really?
Yes, I am glad it did not go
So
through.
you say if he was the Raiders, that wouldn't have won a Super Bowl?
Yes. No, I mean, it all worked out for the best.
So I guess while we're on the subject of a Mad Lib here, I'll just say what I'm going to say. So I guess Derek Carr is the MFer in question.
Yeah. That's why I texted you guys last week.
Gronk has confirmed
like it, right?
that it was Las Vegas that Brady was getting set to go to with Gronk after leaving New England. And then Brady, as we know, wound up on the shop with LeBron James talking about his free agency period where he was getting set to go somewhere, and he says, "You're going to stick with that MFer?" Derek Carr, as confirmed by Gronk. And you have to wonder what was going on there. I had Mayock in the booth during the combine, and I kind of made fun about going to, twitching in Brady's direction. I guess Brady wasn't technically free yet, so he couldn't say the words. But I poked around, and I didn't speak to Mike, but I poked around, and I heard, yeah, this is that happened, and Gronk confirmed it.
Wow.
Now then, Carr is there with Devontae Adams now, with Josh McDaniels, the guy that was coordinating Brady all those years. Wouldn't it be amazing if Carr and Adams with McDaniels takes the Raiders to the Super Bowl anyway, this year under the light that we just had cast on all this? Now, I'm so high on the Raiders that I've chosen them to win the AFC West. I might be the only one out there who said this. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't profess to know everything. But wouldn't that be amazing? And then, with all due respect to Derek Carr, which means now I'm allowed to disrespect him.
You're about to.
Well, I mean, especially in light of seeing how Brady keeps playing and how well he is playing, What was Gruden thinking? Was it so difficult to offload Carr? Would it have totally handicapped them? I mean, there might have been some sort of process that would have been so difficult to undergo cap-wise and get Brady underneath it. But Brady and Gronk in Vegas, when you're trying to open a new stadium and sell seats and get a whole new fan base in Vegas interested? Are you kidding me? How do you turn that down? What are you thinking?
Rich, wouldn't the first question be, how does the president of the Ultimate Fighting Championship get involved in brokering?
Well, isn't he tight with the Patriots and Brady, and he's known him for years, and Kraft and all that? I mean, he's from the area, isn't he?
He is. He's from Massachusetts.
So, I mean,
he sits in the box at Pat's games.
Well, I mean, I get that, but that doesn't strike anyone else as odd that, like, someone not affiliated with the league is brokering.
You know what's the oddest thing? What's the oddest thing ever that I couldn't square this circle the first time I heard it? You know, because I didn't hear the Gronk before and after. I just thought it might have been Dana White espousing off the top of his head. Yeah, when I first sent
you guys the text, that was.
And my first thought was, I could not imagine the phone call. I would have loved a GoPro. I would have loved some sort of tap on the phone of Mike Mayock. Hey, Mike, this is Dana White. Do you want Brady and Gronk together? And what Mayock's first blush response could have been. Like, is this an entrapment of some sort? Like, is there some sort of punking that's going on? You'd have to explain to Mike what a punking really is.
Your first response should have been yes.
Well, I mean, but...
It's like Ghostbusters. But why would you... Someone asks if you're a god, you say yes.
I know that, but as TJ points out, why would you just think that Dana White would have the ability to broker this number one, top of the list, to use a phrase, king of the hill, a number one sports acquisition?
Yeah.
Because it's 2020, and that's how things are done.
Also, from what you always say about Mayock, do you think Mayock knew who Dana White was?
Yes.
Okay.
After a while, I think he would have.
Okay.
But if it all comes down to it, and Gronk confirmed it, you know, and Gronk even had to cover a track. He knows that you got to, you know, you can't disrespect Tampa.
Yeah.
By saying you are choice B. Right? But they were choice B, choice A, which also leads to, you know, asking Brady. I thought the idea was he wanted to stay on the East Coast.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's part of the reason why he went to Tampa. I mean, doesn't matter. He went to Tampa. He's still in Tampa. He won a Super Bowl with Tampa. He almost beat the eventual Super Bowl champions in Tampa. He's back in Tampa today. He will play for Tampa this year. And he damn near may bring a second trophy to Tampa. Wouldn't that be amazing if they take on the Raiders in the Super Bowl?
That would be awesome. Now I'm pulling for that.
Then I think Dana White's got to be the halftime act.
Yo, throw on a
UFC fight. A UFC fight at the Super Bowl halftime?
15 minutes, 3 rounds. Let's go.
You're welcome, everyone.
Bring it in.
Adesanya and Bones Jones, halftime of the Super Bowl.
Well, we need 5 rounds for that, so it's going to draw halftime out a little longer, but that's fine.
The Super Bowl's in Vegas.
Halftime's about a half an hour, 45 minutes anyway.
That'd be perfect.
All right, you're welcome.
That's perfect.
There you go.
You're welcome.
It's usually first.
Nice.
Fighting.
Are we going to rub each other's blood on each other?
Whoa.
Oh, you know, that was insane.
That was nuts.
I put that on our Instagram stories, and I saw you watch it, and when I looked at you watch it, my thought was like, what is Rich thinking right now? Watching.
Actually, you know what I was thinking? I was, and honest to God, I was thinking, I'm like, thank goodness you're operating our Instagram, because I wouldn't have posted that myself. But it's such a major sports story. I'm glad that you're on that wall for us. That's literally what I thought.
Thank you.
And then I thought of Silence of the Lambs. My father being in Ice County. That's what I thought. All right, so we're off and running here. And Brady's back. And, man, his first media availability will be something to tune into. But I'm glad he's back, man.
Yeah. Is he supposed to talk today?
I don't know. I doubt it.
As Brockman pointed out, Brady comes onto the field. He's throwing up middle fingers and DX crotch chops and having fun.
No, I mean,
back, baby.
Thank goodness he is back.
Yeah, he's back.
I mean, what a total bummer it would have been if he wasn't back, and not just for the football, but for him. Like, he doesn't want to depart the team.
No.
Or not. He didn't come back just to not answer the bell in week 1. I mean,
it's okay if he doesn't. For me,
I know that for the Dallas Cowboy fan. Well done, sir.
Take your time, Tommy.
Well done. So we've got Overreaction Monday coming up. Lots to overreact to. Yeah. I overreacted to the Kayvon Thibodeau knee crunching.
Understandable.
And so we're going to hit on that. I have been roasted all day on Twitter by any offensive lineman or defensive lineman or anybody who professes to know blocking and the rule book. I'm a moron, apparently. So we're going to talk about it with Mike Pereira, who loves to point out when I'm wrong. So he's going to join us on this program. Jordan Palmer will talk about his new TV program that's coming out every single week involving, what's the name of it? Let me get it for you right here. It's called The Room with Kyle and Jordan. Kyle being Kyle Allen, one of his proteges, and we also know our friend Jordan Palmer. So he's going to be breaking down quarterback play all season long. It'll be pretty neat. He's going to join us to break down quarterback play. There has been an announcement in Carolina as to who the starting quarterback is. We're going to get to that. Also on the program, a reason to root for the Cleveland Browns quarterback. How about that? 844-204-RICH is also the number for you to dial. If you're right here on YouTube, you want to get in the chat room, do it. Just be polite. That's all we ask.
Chat is bumping right now.
Yeah. And we also know who you are if you're sending little heart emojis our way. Okay? All right. We're not here for you.
By the way, so far, no bots.
Great. Yeah, no bots.
844-204-RICH is the number to dial. And also why we can't call the chat room the 454 chat room anymore.
Wow.
Oh, did your okay.
Sir, this is not an Arby's, okay?
Whoa. Arby's.
Did I say that?
No, you should have been like, sir, this is a Wendy's.
844-204-RICH, number to dial when we come back. The great Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated on The Rich Eisen Show. We're back here on the Rich Eisen Show on our YouTube stream, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. Once again, we are back here on our YouTube page as we were when the Audience Network shuttered in March of 2020, and then the world shuttered in March of 2020. We are here until the Roku channel places us on its platform in September. So for those who we're seeing in the chat page, like, hey, we're thrilled that you're back. We are thrilled to be back here, but we're going to be on the Roku channel and off of YouTube once the Roku channel places us there in September. And the neat news is the Roku channel is free. You can get their app. You can also get it on a desktop. The number of people since we said, hey, we're moving from Peacock to the Roku channel, are like, well, man, I'm going to miss streaming you at work. Two things. Number one, you can still stream us at work through a desktop or an app. And then number two, when you say that, you're letting your boss know you're not completely focused on your work. I'm just giving you that heads up. And we're appreciative of taking you away from that sort of stuff. But we're free, and it's going to be great. And we're thrilled. And certainly if you've got Fire TV or a Samsung Smart TV or a Roku stick or an Amazon Fire Stick, like I said, you can get us. And we're free, and it'll be a great new relationship for us that's just going to keep growing this program, which we're very, very happy about. And for those who might be wondering where we are on Sirius XM, we're straightening that situation out. So we're finding, you know who that is at Sirius XM, right?
Yes, I
okay,
do.
you do know that. That person is now in the trunk of my car.
We got him.
And we're going to go to my mom's spot. She's going to cook us dinner at 2 in the morning. Okay. Is that wrong to say that?
Get the hoof?
Well, I mean, you know.
Well, I know. I guess it turns out poorly
it
for
doesn't
the
end well for
my bad.
For Mr. Bats.
And
I'm just kidding, folks. I'm literally not being serious.
There's only one Irish hoodlum in this place.
You know.
Okay.
That's what he says, remember?
Oh,
De
that's
Niro's
right.
line.
Very good.
Only one Irish hoodlum.
Very good. Speaking of De Niro, later on this week, the author, best-selling author, Michael Mann, will be on this program.
Ooh.
Yes, sir.
Ooh.
He's the director of Heat and the man who wrote Heat 2, which is the #1 best-selling novel on planet Earth right now. How about that? Isn't that amazing?
Well, that movie is great.
So that'll be on Wednesday's show, and later on in hour number 3, Vince Gilligan of Better Call Saul. Back here on our terrestrial radio network, joining us here on our YouTube stream, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. He is one of our favorites and a perfect guy to have right here, as there is breaking news out of Carolina. The Carolina Panthers shocked the world, played a game this week, and didn't play either Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold.
A little surprised.
Heck of a way to evaluate, right?
Yeah,
but I told you, man, they made the evaluation the minute they acquired Baker Mayfield. The minute they acquired Baker Mayfield. And I'll discuss that a little bit later in the show. But right now on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line is our friend from Sports Illustrated and the MMQB. It's must-read material. Albert Breer back here on the show. How you doing, Albert?
I'm great. How you doing, Rich? And by the way,
yes, sir.
Hearing those stories about people like screwing off at work, they always kind of remind me and ground me, as far as how lucky we all are to do what we do.
Yes.
Because usually it's our content they're consuming.
Yes.
So it's okay, so while other people hate their jobs and they're sitting at a desk somewhere, they're actually looking at what I do for a living. So it's got a good way of kind of taking you back to where you need to be as far as your mindset with your job. You know what I mean?
Yes. Not everyone can be a lead content strategist, Albert. You know what I mean? Not everyone can.
Not everybody's got a desk with several coffee mugs, dedicated to him on there, right? So.
Yes,
we all have something to shoot for. I guess.
We do. Bert, let's walk into it, man. Why Baker Mayfield now after the last several weeks of saying we'll see? Walk me through what Matt Rule decided to rule in favor. See what I did? Of Baker Mayfield. What do you got for me?
Yeah, I think a big piece of this, Rich, was really the juncture at which he was brought in, and I think and I know people think it's silly, but. I think to some degree they wanted to acknowledge the work that Sam Darnold had put in, and that he actually had made progress in April and May and June, and he had been out there with the guys. And so trading for somebody at the beginning of July and handing him the job, again, I know some people think this is silly, but, I think Matt wanted not only to have Baker prove himself to coaches, but also prove himself to the locker room. And he's done that. There's no question about it. My understanding is, over the last month, this hasn't been particularly close. The Baker sort of ran away with it, which is one reason why neither of those guys wound up playing against the Patriots. And I think, we talked about this before, you and I, how there's this idea of getting them back up to like a league average level at the quarterback position. Baker's shown that he can do that. The way that he processes, the way he sees the field, the way he can get a little bit more out of like the DJ Moores and the Christian McCaffreys that are out there with him. All of that was really important, and he's proven that he can do that. And so, I think this was just over the last, week or so, just a matter of time and when you wanted to give him the job. And, I think those practices against the Patriots were sort of the last piece for them to put into place before they made this decision official.
And I apologize in advance, but this is an accurate description of Baker Mayfield. He's a flag planter, Albert, and I bring that up not to troll on you. No, seriously though, the first game's against Cleveland, and if you want to set an attitude and you want to set something up, like why not utilize that to your best of your ability if he is in fact also the right guy for the job, and go for it. You know what I mean? For your team.
No, I agree with that. And I appreciate the analogy, but it's true. There is a certain edge that I think if you're trading for Baker Mayfield at this juncture of his career, you're hoping you get, right? You look at when the best of Baker Mayfield came out, it's always when he was fighting back from something, whether it was winning the job at Texas Tech as a true freshman walk-on, showing up at Oklahoma and beating out other guys who were recruited, then proving he's more than just a system quarterback at Oklahoma, winning the Heisman, then going into the draft process and becoming the first overall pick. I think part of that is you've seen the best of Baker Mayfield when he's sort of fighting back against something. And the situation was different for him coming into the NFL because he was the first pick, So, I think you get all of that, naming him the starter, and now you're pitting him against a team that gave up on him, and he's got something to prove, and let's go.
Let's go indeed. So what is the last quarterback piece of the puzzle to be fit in the next week and a half before rosters are solidified, Albert?
Well, I guess I'm assuming you're referencing Jimmy Garoppolo, right?
And then, or whatever might be cooking up in Seattle and things of that nature, right?
Yeah, I think the Niners fear in letting go of Jimmy Garoppolo now, and I don't think they're going to pay him, $24.2 million for this year to be the backup, because he'd be the backup there, obviously. So the question is, can they find a trade partner before they have to cut him? They'd have to cut him before the day before the season starts. So that's Saturday before the opener, to prevent the money from vesting and becoming fully guaranteed. So, really the Niners' fear in letting him go before now was, well, if you let him go, then someone tears their ACL the next day with another team, or someone's quarterback situation goes awry. God, are you going to look dumb for doing that when you could have gotten something for him? I think we've sort of seen that come to life, although it hasn't really worked out for the Niners. And it sounds weird saying that, but the Zach Wilson situation, I think, was a good illustration of it. I think the question now becomes when the Niners, are going to say, okay, let's do right by Jimmy. Let's give him a chance to go find work somewhere else, because it's clear that we can't, find another home for him. And so I think the places that would make sense for him are the obvious ones. If the Texans, for some reason, didn't feel like Davis Mills could do it, and I think they are all in on Davis Mills for this year. Obviously, there's the connection there with Nick Caserio. Cleveland, I think it's something they'd consider if Jimmy Garoppolo were willing to take a lot less money to go there, and maybe he will, as a placeholder for 11 games, or at least to compete with Jacoby Brissett to play. So that'd be one. He's got some background in the offense too, because, that offense, Kevin Stefanski's offense, is modeled after the Shanahan offense. And then the obvious one, I think, that would require him being cut, because I don't think the Niners would trade him there, is Seattle. And so Seattle's the one. You mentioned them. Obviously they haven't seen it. They haven't gotten, I think, to see Drew Lock in the context, that sort of varsity action from him. And so maybe we'll get to see Drew Lock play at least a little bit with the starters this weekend, and they can make a decision on that. But I think, obviously Jimmy Garoppolo's situation is complicated by the money. First of all, that there's that $24.2 million on the ledger. And then, obviously also complicated by the fact that maybe the top suitor is one that the Niners would rather not trade him to.
Senior NFL reporter, the MMQB's Albert Breer here on the Rich Eisen Show from Sports Illustrated. So who's your sleeper? You've been around the training camps. You're hearing a lot of whispers. You're hearing a lot of talk. Who's your sleeper, Albert? What do you got for me? this year?
I kind of like where the Raiders are. I know that sounds like, it sounds weird saying that because they were in the playoffs last year, right? So can a team that was in the playoffs last year be a sleeper? I just sort of feel like they're the afterthought in the NFC West. Everybody's excited, and rightfully so, over Justin Herbert and what he might be capable with the Chargers. Obviously, Russ being in Denver has given the Broncos a jolt of energy, as has Nathaniel Hackett. So there's reason to be excited about those two teams. And the Chiefs are the Chiefs. The Chiefs have been the kings of that division for a long time now. I just look at like a Vegas team that was in the playoffs last year. It still has a lot of good rising young talent. Our friend Mike Mayock did not do a bad job there. I think there was a good roster in place. And then you add Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones. I don't know why that hasn't gotten as much attention, Rich, but that's like a franchise player on each side of the ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So do I think the Raiders are going to Super Bowl? Probably not. Could I see them winning around in a loaded AFC and surprising people with how big a problem they are? I think I could, and so I think Josh McDaniels is going to be much better the second time around. And I just look at that Raiders roster, and if Mike Mayock did a good enough job to get them to the playoffs last year, and that was left in place where they got there with the interim coach in 2021, and you're adding literally one of the best receivers, if not the best receivers in the league, and one of the best edge rushers in football, if not the best edge rusher in football, to the mix. Why aren't we talking about them a little bit more? That confounds me a little bit.
Well, I've been on them. I've been sad. I think they're going to win the division. I think they win the AFC West, and I don't know how far they're going to go, obviously, but when you say you add a franchise player on each side of the ball, normally when you add a franchise receiver, it takes a while for that receiver to get to know the quarterback and vice versa. They've known each other forever. They're tight. They're best friends.
They teenagers, right?
Right. They can look at each other and know exactly what the other one's thinking. So the adjustment is going to be less significant. I think Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow and Josh McDaniels there, I dig them. What about the Giants? I mean, we saw Daniel Jones against Cincinnati, 14-16 and a tip drill pick. I just feel like Brian Daboll might figure out how to protect him or do, give him the opportunity that he hasn't had since he was drafted out of Duke. And Saquon stays healthy. I don't know. I don't know why I'm itching on the Giants as a sleeper team. You tell me. Walk me through it.
Yeah, I think the reason why you're itching on them is because of the job that Brian Daboll did with Josh Allen.
Right.
Which was obviously exemplary, right? And I think it's a fair way to look at it. If there's someone who's going to be able to get a little bit more out of Daniel Jones, it's probably the guy who developed Josh Allen in Buffalo from being a really, really raw, talented, smart kid coming out of Wyoming into a guy who I think we all think is going to be in the running for league MVP this year. So, I get that. I just think the roster needs too much work all over. I mean, I think sort of the way they've approached the way they approach the off season is a sign of it. Where, to me, it's sort of this is 2018 in Buffalo for those guys. Where in the second year of Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, there they sort of took the thing down to the studs and created a situation where they were able to bring in their sorts of guys and build from the ground up. And I just look at their off season, how they, we're looking at budget moves and free agency and bringing in program guys. And then I look at their draft and the investment that they've made in the lines of scrimmage with Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau in the first round. And I just think it's unfortunate for Daniel Jones, but I think he might have caught the team at the wrong time. I think Daboll is going to make a difference for him, but I just think that this is sort of their turn the page type of year.
Albert Breer, a couple minutes left with the MMQB, senior NFL reporter from Sports Illustrated. I've never asked you this before, but I'm going to ask it anyway since it is germane. What'd you think of what Dana White had to say about bringing Brady and Gronk to Las Vegas? What'd you think of that? You heard that one before?
I honestly think, Rich, this is a story that's never going to die. The story of how Tom Brady left New England, the story of who was out there for him, the story of the teams that liked him, the teams that didn't think that he had much left. This thing has legs. We're still talking about it 2.5 years later. You know what I mean? So I feel we're going to get drips and drabs of Tom Brady's like clandestine free agent adventure. And I think we're probably going to get drips and drabs of what happened a few months ago too, over the next few years, because the public, all of us too, like I'm not just saying the fans, like us too, can't get enough of like the drama here. You know what I mean? So, so much of this was trying to figure out what was the term that Brady used on LeBron's show?
The MFer.
Yes.
But Dana White basically said it's Derek Carr, and Gronk confirmed it. I mean, Gronk's sitting there saying, "You just said it. You told the truth." And I'm thrilled that it didn't work out, that we went to Tampa. And how wild would it be if Brady wins twice in Tampa? The first year he wins after it was Plan B after going to Vegas. And then the second time it would be after it's the Plan B because he was thinking of going to Miami. That would be wild. But had you heard anything remotely close to that rumor of what Dana White said?
No. The Raiders were one of the teams that was in. Now, my understanding is at the end, the only two teams that were really in it were the Buccaneers
and the Chargers. Chargers.
But you did hear about teams that were on the periphery and they considered it and they kicked the tires, and the Colts, the Bears, the Raiders were in that group. The Raiders were one of those teams that had kicked tires on it. And I think the Raiders exiting that process, regardless of who said, like, let's not do this, right? I think it sort of illustrates, like, how, at the time, like, how complicated it was bringing in Tom Brady. Because if you brought in Tom Brady, greatest quarterback of all time, like, you are going to have to, like, basically hand part of the operation over to him, operate on his timeline. So every plan that you had made for the few years previous was going to sort of be blown up, and everything was going to be done for right now. And we've seen that come to life with the Bucs, right? Like, that's the way that they've operated. And it's been 100% worth it. You get that one championship, It's always going to have been worth it, right? But, like, that was a complicated thing for a lot of teams, where it was like, we're not just bringing in Tom Brady. Now we have to run the whole organization on his timeline. And that means, like, anything that we've built over the last 3 or 4 years, that means we're going to have to sort of blow that up and operate for right now. And to hell what happens to us 2 or 3 years from now. And, the bottom line is, I think back in 2020, in March of 2020, there were a lot of teams where, even if it meant bringing Brady in, that was a bridge too far. And, based on the results we've seen in Tampa now, we can say there were probably more than a couple teams that made a mistake in that regard.
Yeah. Of course you do it. But so essentially, if this is all true, and again, Gronk confirmed it. I mean, he basically said that's what happened. So then Gruden didn't change his spots in the way that Arians was willing to do so. And Arians has got the ring, right? I mean, is that it? Pretty much?
That's what it sounds like to me. And look, like, I think you got to give Bruce credit. Like, and I know, like, things maybe didn't end the way that everybody had hoped they would end and all that, but he was willing to do this. He was willing to say, and maybe part of it's his age, like, he knew he didn't have very long left. Jason Light was willing to do it. Like, hey, like, we're willing to operate on the timeline of one of our players, and we're willing to do things that might mortgage the future of our organization. The way they wrote contracts, Rich, like, people haven't dug into this as much.
Yes.
Completely changed when they brought in Tom Brady. It was, we're writing contracts way different than we have, and the way we used to do it, that was on principle, but now we're in a different circumstance. And so, I think, like, the willingness of a lot of people in the Bucs organization, primarily Bruce Arians, to do things a different way, facilitated that, and they all have rings because of it. I mean, even down to that, famed, like, whole golf outing, in the middle of the season where, more or less, like, they turned the offense from Bruce Arians' offense into Tom Brady's offense. I think those guys deserve credit for having the flexibility and the humility to go through with something like that.
Albert, you're the man. You caught my Canton appearance, right? At the podium?
I did.
At the jacket dinner? You saw that?
I did. I hope you thoroughly enjoy the next 3 months, Rich. Really, I do.
I've enjoyed the previous 9 as well, so this has been great. I stepped up there with only one line in mind, the one talking about, hey, notice the exits before, for your own safety, and if you need help with the exits. And I was thinking that,
like I said, you had 10 years to work on it.
No. I actually didn't see that until I got the script about a half an hour before, and I'm like, okay, that's my spot, and that'll be the only spot. And then as I stepped up just to literally welcome everybody, saying welcome tonight, people started screaming OH at me before, like, the minute I opened my mouth. And so I'm like, okay, now it's no longer going to be me that started it. You started it, and now I'm going to finish it. That's literally the way it went.
Rich, I've known you a long time.
Yes, sir.
And just that look, I could see the look on your face. You were feeling yourself up there.
Oh, yes. I even fixed my tie because I knew I was going in.
Rightfully so. But I could see that build. I could see that look on your face.
Albert, he's so proud of himself.
I am.
You have no idea.
Honestly, a beautiful wife and 3 children and this show, and it may be the most proud of myself I've ever been. Ever. I'm very proud of myself. Very much so. But I wrote a big fat check. I wrote a big fat check that you look forward to cashing in November. I understand.
Yep. Well, no, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, I would say that 42-27 is up in a lot of places in Columbus, Ohio. There are a lot of reminders. It's a big one for the guys down south.
The guys down south. Albert, you're the best. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Rich.
At Albert Breer on Twitter. I follow him. You should as well. Senior NFL reporter, Sports Illustrated, the MMQB. Right here on the program. All right, so we're going to take a break. I want to get into that Cleveland-Carolina Week 1 game. This thing is now
on
and cracking.
Yeah, let's go.
Correct?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll hit on that. And if you want to call us, 844-204-RICH, that's a number for you to dial. Overreaction Monday, Jordan Palmer, Mike Pereira, still to come. An hour or two. Don't go anywhere.
When you came on our podcast about a year ago, which was one of the most downloaded podcasts we ever did, you said how Aaron Paul, you were thinking of killing off his character by the end of season 1.
The original idea was, you always got to come up with a great season ender. You want a cliffhanger of an episode to keep folks watching next year. And my thought early on, before I even met Aaron, before we cast Aaron, was to have this young guy, former student of Walter White, played by Bryan Cranston, give Walt his entree into the business, sort of show him the ropes of criminality. And then at the end of that first season, that character, Jesse Pinkman, would get horribly killed in some very cinematic, graphic way that I never quite nailed down. But he would be murdered by some rival drug dealers, and Walt would feel very guilty, and then he would seek revenge, and that would propel us into season 2. Then I meet Aaron Paul, and I cast this young guy, and he's fantastic in the role, and he's such a sweet guy to boot. He's just a wonderful guy that I think we're probably shooting the second episode, and I was hanging out on the set with him, sitting in those chairs near the monitors, and I just make a conversation. I say, I was going to kill you off. That was the original plan. He goes, what? He gets all like nervous. He goes, what are you talking about? No, this is a good thing. It's a good thing. Mm-hmm. And I tell him the story I just told you, but he's not hearing the compliment contained within. He's just thinking, oh my God, I might get killed off. And I told this story to Bryan Cranston. I think he wandered by as he's hearing the tail end of this, and he was relentless for the next 6 years. Every time he got a script for a new episode before Aaron did, he'd look through it and he'd read it, and then he'd go up to Aaron, he'd say, buddy, he'd start massaging his shoulders. It was this next one, at least you're gonna go out with a bang. And Aaron, it never got old because Aaron, God bless him, his eyes would just go wide like a deer in the headlights.
Well, because anything could happen on this show.
Well,
and
yeah.
that was what was such a great thing for me consuming it, watching it, is you just really never knew. I see something off camera. I'm wondering what
yes.
What is that? Did you bring this?
I did indeed, and this is a gift for you and your studio.
No way.
This is this is of course the character of Gustavo Fring, played by the amazing Giancarlo Esposito. And this is him post. Spoiler alert! This is him
That's
post.
a bad moment in the nursing home. Very bad moment in the nursing home.
Very bad moment, and a wonderful artist. This was part of an art show we had a couple of years ago, where artists who were inspired by Breaking Bad came up with various artworks, and this is one of them. I love this one.
We're gonna put this on the wall.
Oh man, thank you.
You'll always have a place here, Vince.
Love that. All on our YouTube page. Vince has been here a couple times, including our first ever show. Back here on the Rich Eisen Show terrestrial radio network, along with our YouTube stream and Odyssey and the Rich Eisen Show YouTube stream. When Callaway engineered ChromeSoft to be the best store ball, it didn't just make the best players better. It made everyone better. Men, women, first-time major winners, repeat major winners, club champions, business golfers, even me. The ChromeSoft family has the best tour performance for every type of performance, starting with the regular ChromeSoft, folks, which is designed for the widest range of golfers who want better feel, more distance, and incredible forgiveness. And there's definitely a ChromeSoft for you. Again, I use the regular ChromeSoft. The ChromeSoft X is for great spin consistency, tour level, short game control. The ChromeSoft XLS, that's for the player out there who wants a little bit more lower spin and then firmer feel, high spin around the greens. It's really for somebody not me. This ensures they're the highest quality, most consistent, fastest golf balls possible. When you add it all up, it's so simple. ChromeSoft's not only better for the best, it's better for everyone. Find out which ChromeSoft is right for you at CallawayGolf.com/ChromeSoft. Okay, 844-204-RICH is the number to dial if you want to have a chat with us. Hey, folks. I told you when Baker Mayfield was acquired by Sam Darnold, when I came back from my July walkabout, that happened while I was on vacation. There's a reason why they did this. They saw Sam last year. They know Sam. They see him in the meeting rooms. They saw him all around. They saw him in off-season workout. They saw him. They worked out with him in OTAs. And I understand it was a very negligible amount of draft capital that they sent for Baker. But they're bringing on a quarterback that they're paying about $8 million of his salary. And once that happens, and you do that, you're not just going to bench him and say you're going to have a quarterback competition, and then we're going to have that quarterback competition won by the guy who didn't get totally, in his mind, screwed over by his franchise. Last year, they started Sam Darnold against the Jets. Kind of worked out. That's what you want to use him for.
Worked out first 3 weeks.
It sure did. Baker Mayfield, they're taking on the Browns. What are you going to do, start Sam Darnold? That's what I was saying.
I mean, if he's better.
But you got him for a reason. You know, you sense he's going to be better. And as long as he's not appreciably worse, you're going to start him.
Right.
Today, they announced it's Baker Mayfield's gig, week 1 against the Browns. That's going to be great. As we all know, it's Jacoby Brissett getting the start for the Browns because of everything that went on with Deshaun Watson. I don't know, this just in case you're somehow new here. I don't think you are, but in case you are. I've kind of been very critical of Deshaun Watson and the Browns. Quite a bit.
They deserve it.
But here's one to root for in Cleveland. Guy was terrific this weekend, and I guess, again, I know it is preseason action, but he looked great. Slinging it, running it. And I'm rooting for him, and this is a guy to root for. Brissett, for one, yes, but the backup is Josh Dobbs. God, do I love this kid. In case you're unfamiliar, And if you are, you definitely didn't go to UT. He's a Tennessee quarterback, okay? And while he was at Tennessee, he majored in aerospace engineering. He was the 2017 Torchbearer Award winner that recognizes outstanding contributions in academics and in the community. Drafted in the 4th round by the Steelers in 2017, and he hardly got out there. As we know, Big Ben was the guy, right? And then when they drafted Mason Rudolph in 2019, they sent him to Jacksonville. Pittsburgh did, after Nick Foles broke his clavicle. And then even though Nick Foles broke his clavicle, Josh Dobbs didn't see the field at all in Jacksonville. As we know, it was Gardner Minshew in place of Foles, who then got back in there and didn't play a single game in Jacksonville. Only played in 5 games when he was in Pittsburgh. And then he was re-signed by Pittsburgh in 2021 and then put on IR. So he hasn't seen the field in forever and a day. And while he was in Jacksonville, though, he had an internship at the Kennedy Space Center. Neck up, neck down, the whole thing. Good people. Josh Dobbs is good people. And I understand the Browns have gotten hit hard by many, including me, for not focusing on good people at that position. Josh Dobbs is that. Man, I'm rooting for him. And I know that might mean something befalls Jacoby Brissett. I'm not rooting against Jacoby Brissett. I think it's a great opportunity for him. I think Jacoby Brissett, if he can just go, 5-6, 6-5 in the 11 games?
Just keep things afloat.
That's
man.
it.
Yeah, keep it afloat.
Because Deshaun Watson is not going to forget how to play football. That's for sure. And then you'll find out exactly why the Browns did what they did, in case you need a reminder. Josh Dobbs, man, one to root for. I've met him. I just think the world of him. And watching him, did you see him run away from the Eagles defense yesterday?
Hey, he's nice.
Yeah.
Ran one in, too.
Did his best Earl Campbell impression.
It was great. I mean, somebody was tearing at his jersey, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So it'll be Brissett versus Baker Mayfield. And one of the interesting aspects of this matchup, too, Andrew Brandt, as only he can, the old school capologist of the Green Bay Packers, tweeted this one out. In the opening game between Cleveland and Carolina, the Browns are paying the starting quarterbacks a combined $15 million. They're starting Jacoby Brissett, who they're paying $4.5 million this year, and the Panthers Baker Mayfield, who the Browns are paying $10.5 million this year. So the Panthers quarterback is making more than twice the Browns starting quarterback, and the Browns are paying them both. Twice as much than the Browns quarterback just from what the Browns are paying Baker Mayfield alone. Obviously, there's going to be more on the table for him. And then we'll just see what Baker does there, man.
I think we're going to see a lot what we've seen from Baker since he's been in the league. There's going to be a lot of wild plays. The ball's going to fly out of his hand. He's probably going to get banged up a few times. He might even miss a couple games. There's going to be some dumb throws and some bad turnovers.
Well, I'll tell you what.
That's the Baker Mayfield experience.
He's not only playing for his future, not just maybe in Carolina, but in other places, but I think his coaches too. I think Matt Rule's got an owner that is demanding, not like other owners are wallflowers, but I think McCaffrey's got to stay healthy, and DJ Moore's got to continue being the DJ Moore that we have seen. Is it Robbie or Rob? Is it, I forget, what are you calling him now? Anderson? Robbie with a Y or an I-E?
I think he changed the way we spelled
but we spelled it still. I mean, we got to see more from him. Okay. And then that Carolina defense to try and make some hay, because nobody's talking about anybody else in that division. Nobody in that division is expected to come out to make the playoffs. But we'll see if Carolina could do that with Baker. Won't that be interesting? So hour number 2, Jordan Palmer will ask him about the decision to go with Baker Mayfield. And Mike Pereira will join us to talk about how I was way off on the Kayvon Thibodeau hit. And then Overreaction Monday and more coming up. But we are still here on our YouTube stream.
What's up, YouTube?
We're still here on our YouTube stream. Now, the chat room
was
nicknamed...
Chat's fire.
We asked them what they wanted to be nicknamed when we did this the last time in March, in the spring of 2020, right? And because I don't know how it came up, my Uber rating came up one day, and my Uber rating was a mind-boggling, dreadful 454, and you guys all had fun with that. and so they were known as the 454s in this chat room. And some are even saying, hey, the 454s are back.
454s back.
And I have to push back on that.
Uh-oh.
The chat room may be back, and the folks who are kind enough to take in this show on our YouTube stream and chat with us, they're back. Can't call it that. Okay, put it up. How about 457? Whoa! How about 457?
What's been going on?
What's going on?
Just a lot of chit-chat. A lot of sitting in the front seat.
493.
Yeah, right.
A lot of sitting in the front seat. A lot of chit-chat.
You followed what I said.
I have followed what you said.
What did I tell you, Rich?
And my frequent riding partner is following what you said, too.
See?
She's in line.
You guys.
Huh?
She's in line, keeping her in line.
People know.
I'm not keeping anyone in line, and you need to watch your tone when you say things like that.
Does he know who he's talking about?
You threw her under the bus.
You did.
Multiple times for your poor rating.
Yeah, but he still ain't keeping Susie Schuster in line, though, dog.
You did.
Well, she's cooperating.
No, she's, let's just say, more aware of the mechanics of one's rating on Uber and what might factor into it and what might not. Okay. And how we can weigh the
vanilla tree
and how you
air
can
freshener.
And how you can and how you can weigh the olfactory issues in the moment, how long the ride is, dependent on the rating. Yes,
I was in a smelly Uber.
More cognizant.
This week. I was in a smelly Uber this weekend. I didn't tell the guy, oh, by the way, your car stinks. I had chat.
We almost got in like 3 accidents coming home Saturday. My driver was a lunatic.
Yeah, I was.
So what'd you do? What'd you say?
Nothing. I sat there and gripped.
And then did you give a thumbs up and a rating? Or
you know what? I actually haven't rated him yet. I'm thinking about a 4 though. It was bad.
In other words, I say hello to the 457s out there in our YouTube chat room.
457.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
Brady and Gronk to come to the Raiders. And at the last minute, Gruden blew the deal up.
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
I was sitting there thinking, you're sticking with that mother.
Earlier on the show, senior writer for the MMQB, Albert Breer. Coming up, Fox Sports rules analyst Mike Pereira, co-host of The Room, Jordan Palmer, co-creator of the AMC series Better Call Saul, Vince Gilligan, and now it's Rich Eisen.
Yes, it is. Hour number 2 of the Rich Eisen Show is on the air right here on our YouTube stream, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show, where we will reside until September when we join forces with the Roku channel. And just a friendly reminder to every single soul out there that is watching us on our YouTube stream or listening to us on our Odyssey app, this Rich Eisen Show terrestrial radio affiliate, coast to coast. We'll be back on Sirius and XM in short order. Trust me on that one. That the Roku channel that we're going to be joining in September is free, and it's not only on Roku devices. In addition to Roku devices, it's on the Roku app, the RokuChannel.com, Amazon Fire TV, and Samsung Smart TVs. Roku's device, Amazon Fire Stick, and Samsung TV, just only the 3 largest connected TV devices, and the Roku channel is on all of them. Roku channel is free. I just need to stress all that. Joining us on this program later on this hour, Mike Pereira, the NFL rules analyst for Fox, will explain to me why me freaking out over Kayvon Thibodeau having his knee buckled last night on a hit that has left him with an MCL injury that's going to keep him out for 3 weeks. He's going to explain to me why that hit is legal and why I was wrong to say that there should be a fine and a suspension coming. And so that will lead to the follow-up question is then why is that hit legal? And what is the league thinking about that? That's coming up in hour number later on this hour. Also, Overreaction Monday. And at this very moment, in hour number 3, I will turn to my right and see in the in-studio guest chair the creator of Breaking Bad and the TV show that just wrapped up 1 week ago tonight on AMC, Better Call Saul. The brilliant Vince Gilligan will be here in studio hour 3 to chop it up with us. And then you at 844-204-RICH, number to dial. But we turn to the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line and find one of my favorites. Makes me smarter every time I talk to him, so it's a good thing that he and Kyle Allen of the Houston Texans have created a new show that's going to be talking with the best quarterbacks of the biggest matchup every single week. It's called The Room. And at The Room with Kyle and Jordan is the way that you can check things out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music. Jordan Palmer back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing well. I'm ready. It's been a long off season for me. The off season is my season, and so
I bet it is
some real football.
Okay, so who do you think will wind up with the biggest leap from year 1 to year 2, or year 2 to year 3 at the quarterback position? Jordan Palmer. I'll start very macro with you on that front. What do you got for me?
Yeah,
on that?
well, I think, and this is just from the situation. I mean, I would expect Trevor Lawrence to make some leaps and bounds. Just the stability he had in high school for 4 years, the stability he had at Clemson for 3 years, and then maybe one of the most unstable environments I've seen for a season, in a long time. For him to go to that, there's just nowhere to go but up. And so I don't even remember what his stats were. I don't know how many interceptions he threw. I kind of just scrapped that whole year. And I would expect Trevor to look more like the number 1 pick this year and the player that we've all expect him to be. And I think that staff being in around them, adding in a guy like Christian Kirk, a couple other pieces, I think Trevor's in a position to make a big step.
Yeah, I mean, his situation's so unique. I created a word. I don't think it's a word, but I say it. He's unevaluable. You can't evaluate him based on what last year was and looked like, thanks to Urban Meyer. And so now, year 2 for him, what do you think Doug Peterson does that he can bring to the equation that can help us evaluate Trevor Lawrence and see what he can do? What do you think?
Well, I think he's a great offensive mind, but even before that, I mean, he's just going to be in a position to have success. I mean, you know this. You've been doing this a long time. Like, all the stories we heard about what were happening last year with Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's always a small percentage of what's actually happening, right? There's all tons of stuff that no one knows about. So to go into work every single day, and the most important thing you have to do is unrelated to your own success and leading the team to victory or whatever, when like playing quarterback on the team is secondary because there's other fires to put out, I just don't know how you succeed. And so for us, I don't know how you evaluate him. So I totally agree with you. And I think this year we're going to be in a position to evaluate him. He's got stability. They've got an offense that's designed around what the pieces that they have on offense. And that sounds really obvious. Like, who doesn't do that? I don't know that they really did that last year. And so kind of co-coordinators and Urban Way in it. So like I scrap it. I like, unevaluatable.
Yeah, that's right.
But I would expect a major progress from Trevor this year.
And then another evaluation that I'm keen on. We're hearing it from Tyreek Hill. Mike McDaniel, the new coach in Miami, went on our friend Dan Le Batard's show and mentioned how the ball that Tua throws for a left-hander, even though he's really right-handed, doesn't tail. So he called it the most accurate catchable ball I've ever seen. Do you think this is just talking him up? Or do you think that this is the proper evaluation of Tua Tagovailoa going into a very crucial year for him in Miami, Jordan?
I think it's a totally pointless statement to make. I mean, I saw that. I thought maybe a misquote, just why a head coach would just say that. I mean, or even a player to say that, right? I mean, you're gonna have a guy who's on the hot seat right now. But I don't care if we're talking about Joe Burrow to sit here and say, like, this is the greatest, the most catchable ball I've ever seen. I mean, I don't know how you quantify that. I just thought it was a weird statement. And that's aside from Tua. Now, for Tua, I think the main thing is injuries. I mean, he was hurt in high school. He was hurt in college. He's been hurt in the league a little bit, too. So, yeah, he needs to play at a high level, and he needs to take advantage of what they have in that huddle with him, because there are some horses in that huddle. But he's got to stay healthy. And so it's going to be a combination of he's got to play the best football of his career, and he's got to be able to stay healthy in a division that's kind of a weird division right now. You got Buffalo, should run through that division and dominate. Who knows what the heck is happening in New England right now? And then with the Jets, I think that's another guy I think should take a step this year, Zach Wilson. But he just missed the most important part of the offseason, which is the month leading up to the season. So what effect that has on him. But, yeah, going back to Tua, just a weird statement. I've thrown it with Tua. I think he's got a great arm. He spins it really well, but it wouldn't be on the top of my list.
Yeah, as a Jet fan, I'm just looking for Zach Wilson to take a physical step, like a literal step first, before we could start talking about the figurative next step for him, and so that crucial period that you're talking about, he has missed it. And so Tyreek's other spot in Kansas City, so much conversation about the fact that Tyreek's not there and the offense will take a step back. But we're seeing all these kids like Justin Watson. We're seeing Sky Moore. We're also seeing MVS and Juju. What's your assessment of the Chiefs offense going into this year, Jordan?
Well, when they lost Tyreek or traded Tyreek, I kind of look at it through the lens of the quarterback. So as I'm talking to guys I work with and all that, we're responding and reacting to what happened. Put yourself in Pat's shoes, and I feel like there's 2, maybe 3 players in the NFL right now where they can literally score from anywhere on the field. Right, any type of throw, all of a sudden, poof, they could take it 80. Now, there's a lot of fast guys in the league. There's a lot of great runners, but I feel like it's Tyreek Hill, it's Jamar Chase. And when healthy, I think it's Alvin Kamara. Those are the 3 guys where you go, at any given moment, this guy can score. And so that's a small number, Rich. I don't know how you get rid of those guys, right? I don't know how you say we'll replace that with what. So that was my initial reaction. But then you start kind of watching a little bit this offseason. I kind of thought more about what Patrick is. And Pat, I think, is just a significantly more talented version of what Ben Roethlisberger was in his prime, where Ben had a different body type, different talent, different size, all that. But his ability to have guys on the outside run 14-yard curls, and then he pump fakes them, and then they just take off in any direction they want. And so guys like Santonio Holmes, guys like Hines Ward, these guys had great careers there. But it was that second reaction. It was after they run their route, then they just take off in another direction. And I feel like that's what Juju did in Pittsburgh. I think that Patrick is now like the best guy in the league to do that with. And so my initial reaction was, how are you going to replace Tyreek? And those names you just threw out, I wouldn't be surprised if it looks on paper like they didn't miss Tyreek next year and that production is made up elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a combination of those guys. But, Juju is a guy where I could see him actually have a really big year because of what I just said. It's not how fast he is or how clean routes he runs. It's that second reaction, playmaking down the field, Pat's essentially building his game off of it right now, and he's the best in the league at doing that.
And you could see this weekend, the Chiefs stood out as a team that handled the first half of their preseason game in D.C. like it was the old school Week 3 preseason. Like they were running their offense. It looked like to me a little bit, Jordan. Right?
They did, and I mean Pat looked,
he looked great.
Like he looked great.
Yeah.
But I think we got to have confidence at each position and all that stuff. But you got to have confidence as an offense. Like when that coordinator brings everybody up in the meeting room, like you got to be able to see this working really well before the season starts, right? You can have confidence in Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and these individual players, but you lost a big piece in Tyreek, and so the entire collective group and staff needs to go, all right, I see really clearly how this goes. So I was not surprised that they got significant playing time in the preseason to just as a room go ahead and take that step and go, all right, cool, yeah, we're going to move forward.
Jordan Palmer, Quarterback Summit founder and coach, and the Room co-host with Kyle Allen, and you can check it out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Who's the quarterback or offense we're not talking about that you think we should be? Jordan Palmer, what do you got for me?
Oh man, there's a couple of them, but I think there's one guy that maybe the longest off season and that had to suffer through the longest off season, which is Ryan Tannehill. Right now, because it's preseason and stuff, we're talking about Malik Willis, but how's Ryan Tannehill going to respond? Because they were the number one seed in the AFC last year. Derrick Henry was hurt quite a bit, came back, and then to throw 3 picks when your defense, I think they sacked Burrow, what was it, 7, 8, 9 times?
9.
Like that.
Yep.
9 times. How's Ryan Tannehill respond here? They got a young guy. We heard the comment that he made, which, I think was blown out of proportion, but about, it's not my job to help Malik. But I'm curious what's going to happen in Tennessee because it's still a good defense. It's still, if Derrick Henry's healthy, probably the last team you want to play when it comes to running the football. So and it's a small market. And it just they just slip through the cracks a lot. And so I'm really curious to see how Ryan Tannehill responds to, like I said, I think maybe the longest offseason of the year.
That is one of them. No doubt about it. And I mean, I think it's his gig, right? I mean, do you think any of the rookies have a shot to start this year? I guess Pickett does look like one who's got the best shot at a week 1 potential so far. I don't know.
Yeah, he's
what's your
the
sense?
only guy that's got a shot at that. I don't know the value in running with Kenny Wynn right now. And Kenny's actually a guest on our show that you've been mentioning.
Yes.
The Room. He's a guest next week. And so excited to talk with him. But I don't know what you gain out of it. It's kind of like in Atlanta. They just went ahead and named Marcus Mariota the starter because what's the point in having a QB competition if it's close at all? Now, if Trubisky was, playing the worst ball of his career and Kenny's doing what he's doing right now, it makes more sense. But when you've got a veteran and a rookie and they're both playing, commiserate, you know what I mean, about the same, all that, I just err on the side of going with the older guy because you can always make that switch down the road. So I do think that Desmond has a chance to start this year in Atlanta, whether it's because they're struggling or injury, and I think the same thing with Kenny. But I'm excited to watch Trubisky play. Maybe that's an answer to what offense am I excited?
Sure.
I'm excited to watch Trubisky play in this system because just hearing Josh Allen talk about him last year when he went and got a year out of the spotlight, out of Chicago, got to go back up Josh, watch him play at that level he played at. I'm excited to watch Trubisky, how he responds too.
Jordan Palmer here on the Rich Eisen Show. In the few minutes left, let's talk about Josh Allen because he's, your odds-on favorite for MVP. Fun. And you've been there since jump, man. And I just wonder how does his ascension change the way we evaluate kids coming out of college? Because I just remember the evaluation of him and now what he's done and where he is entering this season. And you're also seeing comparisons of stats with him and Daniel Jones. I saw that last night on the Giants preseason broadcast, and they're quite similar through the first 38 starts of his career and things of that nature. I'm just wondering if Josh Allen's going to start changing potentially the way that we evaluate quarterbacks, or he's just such a unicorn. What do you think?
Yeah, I do. Forever people have said things like, you can't coach accuracy. You can't go to the NFL where it's harder and get better and be a better pro than you were in college. And he's certainly not the only one who's done that, who's become a better pro than he was college player. But I've been hearing that a lot. And when coaches say that, I say, I believe you. I bet you can't. You help somebody get more accurate as they get older. But he's already changing it. I've actually spent some time this offseason going around to different buildings, different NFL teams, and speaking to the scouting departments on that, kind of getting brought in to consult and talk with different scouting departments about how they have actually evaluate the position. And I just think that we've got to go back further. And so when you look at a Josh Allen and you go, where did it come from? You look for the staff, you look to the people who played a role, but he's a rare one that didn't grow up in an area where he had a bunch of elite level quarterback training like so many kids have right now. And so he kind of got introduced to a lot of the stuff that other kids, when they're younger, get introduced to at a much younger age. He didn't get introduced to it till really late. But then you add in the talent and the ability and his physical traits. And so I just think that to say somebody's not accurate, or I think he was 54% in college, and then write it off, I just think that's lazy. We need to do more research. And if somebody's had a lot of training and they've had great exposure and great experience and they're still 54%, then I think you can write that person off. But what I'm challenging people to do is dive deeper and go back earlier in the story and figure out why they believe what they believe or why they don't believe what they don't believe.
Well, I guess the question is how much better can he get, do you think, Jordan? What do you think?
Well, I think when you look at the guys who've been MVPs and done it, Aaron and Tom and Peyton and these guys who've done it, it was a full season, right? It was no bad games. It was complete. And Josh's highs are as high as we've seen, with his last game of the season last year. But they stubbed their toe and lost to Pittsburgh early. I was in Tennessee for the Monday night game when kind of missed really only missed one or two throws, but then they lose by 3. That affects the seeding, and so it's a complete year. They have to start week 1 the way that they finished last year. The great teams and the best players in this league do that, and that's my expectations for Josh this year. So
what's the expectation for the room? You and Kyle Allen, he's down in Houston, right? And you're just going to meet Zoom and get a guest every week? What's the plan here? Walk me through it.
Well, yeah, so the room, we think about like 30 minutes before a quarterback meeting starts, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're in the NFL, you're in there. Like, what are the quarterbacks talking for that 20 or 30 minutes before the meeting starts? And a little bit of it's football. And when that part of football is really elite, like advanced conversations about football. You're talking about very interesting stuff. We talk about sports, other sports. You talk about fashion, you talk about music. So we've been talking about doing this, and I've got a lot of awesome guests lined up, essentially the biggest names in football, quarterback position lined up for this year. And so Kyle and I, it's more like a PTI meets BFFs with Dave Portnoy. It'll live on YouTube. We'll cut things it'll be drips every single day. But we want the best quarterback from the biggest matchup that week. So Kenny Pickett, just because it's preseason, be joining us this week. Desmond Ridder was a guest last week. We'll get JT Daniels right before the Backyard Brawl. Josh Allen to kick off the season, and away we go all the way through this year. So we want to make the most fascinating conversation in football happening on our channel, and we're excited to do it and get some basically the biggest names in quarterback lined up for the season.
The neat part about that sounds great, man, and I will be checking it out, that's for sure. And the neat part about Josh is it strikes me as he's got the ability to hear all the expectation and shoulder it and just still be himself. I have zero concern that the expectation level is going to consume him. I don't have a single ounce of concern about that at all.
Yeah.
Jordan,
it's weird too, Rich. I haven't, you've known my brother a long time,
yep.
and we were friends a long time, and people made a big deal about Carson. Right? I've certainly seen people in his prime and all that ask for autographs and ask for pictures and all that stuff. It's a little different in Buffalo. I mean, they think they people say and write things like our savior. I mean, really. It's really important to that community in a way that I did not see in my time in the NFL. I never saw a player that important to a community. And whether it was Ocho Cinco in Cincinnati, Brandon Marshall in Chicago, Matt Forte in Chicago, I've never seen a community respond to this. So it's not just the winning expectations. It's like what he means to that community. And I just think I can name a ton, I won't, but a ton of quarterbacks that I've been around that are amazing players that I don't think could handle that. And I don't know what it is. He's just built to be able to handle it. And I agree. I don't think it's going to be too big a deal.
At all. Normally you'd think that going into a season, certainly for a franchise and a team and a mafia that is so wanting it. I have no concerns about it. I can't wait to see him. in a few Thursdays right here in Los Angeles. Let's do this more often. I'd love to do it, Jordan. You know that. So let's do it. Look for my call.
Cool. Thanks, Rich.
Take care of yourself. That's Jordan Palmer at JW Palms on Twitter. I follow him. You should as well. And check out, again, The Room with him and Kyle Allen every single week. YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music at The Room with Kyle and Jordan. We'll take a break. Overreaction Monday and your phone calls right here on the Rich Eisen Show on this terrestrial radio network coast to coast. Thanks to Westwood One, Odyssey app, and youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. 844-204-RICH.
What do you think you personally brought to it? Because I'm imagining you gave your own spin to Gus Fring. What did you bring to the table that Vince Gilligan and the crew were like, okay, stick with that?
Well, I finished that first episode before I got off the plane. As the door was opening, my phone was ringing. Would you come back and do another? I was convinced I didn't want to see the stereotypical bad guy. I didn't want to see the mafiosa. I am Italian. I've been to Italy with the little dog and the guy who's, I wanted to be a guy who was affable, part of the community, who handled his business like a business. Mm-hmm. And that people could eventually possibly begin to like. It was the calm demeanor that I brought to this character that I feel like really allowed him to be elevated. It was my yoga breathing. It was my attention on someone else. It was my caring about people. Gus does care about people. He's brutal to them if they don't do what he says, but he's very kind to them if they do. He is the ultimate father in the laundry business, in the drug business, and in the chicken business. Can't forget I make good chicken, boss.
Los Poros Hermanos, man. No question about it. One question on the demise. Spoiler alert. Now, were you disturbed by how you looked in that final scene? Because I sure was. I mean, I honestly dreamt about it. How it looked. I can only imagine that's you on the screen.
It is me. Extremely disturbing. Vince checked in with me. We talked about it. I said I didn't want this death to veer off into sci-fi land. It had to be real. We had to believe it. Mm-hmm. And we agreed on that. Yes, very disturbing because, it was a 4.5-hour makeup, a trip to Los Angeles, K&N. Howard Berger actually did the work. And I have to say that I sat for a bust for an hour and a half. My lovely Shane Lira came with me. Very scary. Had to hold my hand. Couldn't hear, couldn't see. And a lot of people tap out. They got to just take it off. So they made that bust. They did some digital stuff afterwards. And then on the day, they had to do all that makeup. And when I finally turned, I insisted on not looking in the mirror when it was being done. I turned my back. And so they could turn me around, and I was in shock at the artistry with which this was applied to my face. And I was in shock at how people immediately started taking selfies of me, but it was a little bit creepy. Very, very creepy. And so we had discussed a lot of it, and Vince says, what might you be doing if this happened? And I said, well, look, Gus is very proper. I close my jacket, when I stand up. I open it when I sit down. I said, I would be straightening my tie. And Vince his eyes lit up. And he said, oh, my goodness, what a move. I said, yeah, he's preparing to go. Sold. He's going to the afterlife.
Oh, man, do I love Giancarlo Esposito. Multiple appearances here on the youtube.com/Rich Eisen show site. We are about 35 minutes now from the creator of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul coming into our studio, Vince Gilligan. It's going to be a dynamite conversation. We are such big fans of the show. We hope you are as well. And be very honest with you, hope many of you have seen the ending of Better Call Saul because we're going to talk about it a little bit with him. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial here on the program. Let's take your phone calls if you're out there on our YouTube stream or our terrestrial radio outfit, Odyssey, 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Let's go to Jacob in Phoenix, Arizona. What's up, Jacob?
Hey, Rich. How you doing?
What's going on?
Oh, okay. So we'll just get right to it. This is an open question for TJ, Chris, Mike, and you, Rich. Maybe something for you guys to discuss.
Okay.
But as I was sitting with my friend, we were thinking about the Los Angeles Chargers, right? How they're a team that's really good, really talented, but, they didn't end the season the way they wanted to last year because they're a team who can pretty much beat anybody.
Yep.
Like, I think they could beat the Bills, but they could also lose to, let's just say the Jaguars. So we were thinking to ourselves, who is the NFC version of that? And when we were talking about it, we said it was the Arizona Cardinals. They can pretty much beat anybody, but they can also pretty much lose to anybody. So what's your guys' take on that?
How about the Dallas Cowboys? I'm not doing that to troll on anybody. I'm serious. What are you laughing about? Last year they I'm serious. Last year they Last year they almost beat the defending world champs in their house with a guy coming off of a leg injury that was gruesome, and everyone's wondering how he's going to handle that and the money, and Dak was terrific.
Settle down just a little bit.
They won 12 games last year.
And then they turned around and lost the Denver Broncos.
And they won their division.
Yeah, I think always lose to the Broncos.
I think Jacob's talking about a team they're not going to win their division because they do dumb things like what the Chargers do. They just kind of play dumb football sometimes,
This takes a nice chunk out of the pie.
So, what do you say?
I think
the Cardinals is a good pick.
I see what he's saying, and I
How about
kind of
Atlanta?
agree with him.
Atlanta, maybe not anymore, but they had been that way for a while.
They'd been that way, but they did go to a Super Bowl.
I'm sorry, you wanted to chime in here, sir? Go for it.
Yeah, no worries. I was going along with what Chris was saying, right? What I was getting at is, they're I feel like the Cardinals are this team that's really good, and to be fair, the Dallas Cowboys are as well. I don't want to disrespect TJ's fandom over there, but when I think about the Cardinals, right, I think to myself how they always look unbeatable sometimes, right? And then they have things like AJ Green not turning around to catch the touchdown to beat the Green Bay Packers, or just something dumb happens, and the Chargers do the exact same thing when they have these games.
All right, Jacob, thanks for the call. TJ, you want to chime in?
No.
No, because I shut you down. You're upset. Right, because I said Dallas?
I'm going into a show right now.
No, come on, seriously.
Well, shut up and let me answer.
I didn't hear what he just said.
Okay. You don't want to chime in on Jacob?
No, I just said I agree with Chris earlier. I agree with Arizona. They seem like that team. There's weeks with the Cardinals look like they could beat anybody, and then they'll lose a game. You're like, how was this the same team that we watched 2 weeks?
Did you see Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals did not score a touchdown on offense with Cliff calling the plays, and then he handed it off to Kyler, and they did score a touchdown? Did you see that? As, by the way, the Ravens won yet another preseason game.
22 in a row.
The most meaningless stat of all time.
How? It is, but it's not, though.
What do you mean?
I don't know. It kind of builds character for the season, doesn't it?
Meaningless.
Completely meaningless.
And by the way, how about the tight end Isaiah Likely? Could they have?
What's more?
Seriously, right? But how about that kid? How about if Mark Andrews and him together?
Mark Andrews just popped up. He was in the 30s.
They still need a dominant WR1 on that.
Don't you think?
We've all been saying that.
But it's not like there's anybody out there right now.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It would be. I'd love to see Lamar have that sooner than later.
Also, Lamar, no joke. He's looks 20. What did they say? 25 pounds heavier on the broadcast.
Bro, Lamar's jacked.
Huge, man.
Remember we talked last week about? I asked you, did you ever notice the size of Lamar's neck? Like, homeboy is just.
Well, he's also, like we said, he's 6'3". He's not like, Kyler Murray running around.
Okay, let's get to it. It's a Monday, coming off of a very busy football weekend. It's time for Overreaction Monday. Hit it, please.
That was terrible. That was crap. That was garbage. This place sucks.
Overreaction
Monday.
Hit it, Christopher.
Hey, guys,
Let's go.
did you see who's back in South Florida?
Who?
Tom, he's back.
Oh, it's Central Florida.
Hey.
That's why I was thrown off.
I was like, Miami.
By the way, nothing to see
New
here.
England guy.
Nothing to see here with the Brady absence.
Okay.
Nothing to see.
Well, I'd agree with that. There's nothing to see here. If it's personal and who's been able to, box up the personal and just focus on the professional.
There's a report out there that he had went to the Bahamas with his family.
Look, I don't want to get really into the there's been rumors all over the map that
I understand.
are
I'm just
really
saying,
personal and also really, I don't know. There is nothing to see here. I can't imagine.
All right.
I can't imagine that there's a teammate there that thinks that Tom is thinking too much of himself. There's never been a teammate that I think thinks that of Brady. I can't imagine. I haven't heard that at all in 20 years. I haven't heard even one disgruntled Patriot say that. So I will agree. Nothing to see here. He is one of those types of athletes that can compartmentalize and will do so, I think. But one never knows. And September 11th, Tampa at Dallas will be the first indication of such, and I cannot wait for that.
Me too.
So I think that's an appropriate reaction. Nothing to see here.
All right, this next one I kind of did just because I want to see what you guys are going to say. All right, also in line with what with talking about Brady. Gruden made the right call, not taking Brady and Gronk in 2020.
That's ridiculous.
He made the right call. Just think about where the Raiders are now. If he had done that back then, right? No Derek Carr right now, no Devontae Adams right now, no Josh McDaniels right now, no Josh Jacobs, no Chandler Jones, no Mac. All those guys are probably not on the team right now.
Or maybe some of them would have arrived on the spot because Brady would have brought them there.
Yeah.
What about the same way that if the Raiders had conducted themselves the same way that the Bucs did? Come on, man. You don't.
The Raiders
look
weren't
at
as good as the Bucs, though. Do you think if Brady had gone, they won the Super Bowl that year, like the Bucs did?
Look, I can't sit here and say that. No, I can't.
Bucs were loaded on offense, and they delivered.
I understand, but you can't look at Brady and Gronk and say, "Yeah, we'll pass." Honestly, I'm mystified by that. Completely mystified, and I understand his love for Derek Carr, and I have nothing but appreciation of him and belief in him. I mean, I'm saying the Raiders are winning the division this year after the division just turned into what the division has turned into.
Mark Davis said he had no knowledge of this, though. Like, how's that possible?
I can't imagine that. Dana White had to contact somebody to get Mayock's number, right?
Vegas? Dana White knows people in Vegas,
but
right?
How about this? How about this? If it wasn't Gruden, it was Gruden and Mayock together, and and Mark Davis saw Brady do what he did, and Mayock was part of the crew that said, "Yeah, let's not do that." And you're seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of get out, right?
Maybe.
That's interesting.
I don't know. There's so much crazy ass speculation around, but I'll say that's an overreaction. You got a shot at Brady and Gronk in 2020. You take that shot in 2020. Come on. What else?
You know who looked good over the weekend? Kenny Pickett looks good over the weekend. Lamar Jackson looks absolutely yoked, and we know the Bengals are going to be good. How about the AFC North? 3 playoff teams.
I think you could say that. Yeah. I think 3 playoff teams from there, and then you get 2 in the West because they're beat up. The Colts and
one in the West.
The Colts,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, 2 in the West because you're when you're saying 3 playoff teams, you're talking about the division winner and 2 wild cards, right?
Yeah, then one division winner and the other.
Right, correct.
Right.
So you get the division winner. You get the Bills and whoever the Colts and the Titans are, right? That's what I'm saying.
Right. So no Patriots, maybe no Titans.
No Dolphins.
No Dolphins.
No second, no third and fourth place finisher in the AFC West.
Right.
That's totally doable. That's totally doable. And the way that the NFL would normally operate, in the way that you don't see it coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I think that's totally doable. Kenny Pickett starting, which is something that I thought was entirely possible. I don't know. I mean, you heard Jordan Palmer earlier say it's easier to start with the veteran and go to the kid. That's no question about it. That's what happened with Roethlisberger. You know?
Yeah.
And then they turned to Roethlisberger out of necessity because Tommy Maddox got hurt.
Touchdown Tommy.
And I just remember Alan Faneck, a future Hall of Famer, and the rest of the offensive line. It's like, I don't know. This team's ready to win now. We're going to turn to the kid? Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Kid turned out all right.
What else, Chris? What else?
TJ, the rookie record for receiving touchdowns. You know who that is? The guy your team passed on, Randy Moss, 17
Nice.
back in the day.
That still hurts.
I'm going to say,
passed on him too. So
I'm going to say, you know who's really good? Chris Olave is really good. He's going to challenge Moss's rookie TD.
I don't know. Can Jameis get it to him? Is Jameis going to be healthy enough to get it to him? If he's not, then who's the
touchdowns
quarterback
in every
gonna be?
game this year.
I get it. I don't know. Look, I can personally attest as to how good Chris Olave is. He ruined many a November, with the exception of last one.
Not about you. It's about Chris
Oh, my
Olave.
gosh.
It's about Chris Olave and the Saints.
That was a good one. I just love it.
Not about you in
I
Michigan
had to
at the
stop
moment.
myself. I'll say that's an overreaction.
Well, plus, if can't guard Mike is back, then that's going to be very hard for him to
So,
get 17.
who's going to be the kid? He might lead all rookies with it. I don't know. Garrett Wilson's quarterback just had surgery 6 days ago.
That's what I mean.
And then what? Drake London's hurt.
Hey, meet me at the London.
Tyquan Thorne's now out 8 to 10 weeks.
I don't know. As
17's a lot.
you know, look to the second round for your wide receivers too. A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf. I'll just say that's an overreaction and move on.
Hey, speaking of guys catching touchdowns, did you see the play that Josh Allen made over the weekend?
To Gabriel Davis.
Yeah,
took forever.
Lordy. My God.
He just keeps the play alive and then he flips it up in the air.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Gabe Davis is going to be the Bills' #1 receiver this year.
I think that is absolutely a spot-on supposition. I will just say it's not analysis. It's not a prediction. I will say that Stephon Diggs is going to get so much attention, and rightfully so, that this kid, Gabriel Davis, is going to have a monster season. I loved talking to him the other day. I loved hearing his story. As you know, I love narratives and stories about him not getting drafted in the first 2 nights of the draft. Everybody's cleaning up at his party on that Friday night of the draft night. He went in the 4th round the next day, but he said he was so embarrassed he went in the bathroom and cried. You hear that and you just know that guys just want to win. I'm getting I'm getting the goosebumps right now because I love stories like that. So, yes, I say that is an appropriate reaction. I'll say that, I'm not being at all critical of Stephon Diggs, but I'll go with that. Is there one more? Do you got one more?
Yeah, one more. I got one more. Don't need a mic. It's all good.
I was gonna.
Look, they look terrible.
Sorry, I don't hear it anyway because the batteries just went out of my
They
ears.
look
Thanks.
terrible
Good job.
over the weekend. Do you mean to talk loud? I'll talk loud. The Seahawks will be drafting #1 overall.
Oh, my God. We're back to this now? We're back to this now?
They look awful. They look terrible.
Are we back to this now?
Yes. They don't have any quarterback. I'm talking C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, Seahawks colors.
I guess you could say it's not an overreaction. I guess you could.
I mean,
look
I didn't
at this.
double down on my Pete Carroll take. I'm just
Well,
saying
you're
#1.
Pete's going to be gone.
Yeah, I'm just #1.
I mean, you can't. If you're identifying teams prior to the season as to how they look at the quarterback position and how, as I told you, the runny nose is a lack of tackling, but it's just a preseason game, and Pete's always better than you think.
Yeah, well.
Screw it. It's an overreaction. I'll cape for the 12s. All right, when we come back here, I overreacted to something on Twitter. The Kayvon Thibodeau hit. And, man, am I getting roasted. I don't know football. I suck. I'm a moron. Mike Pereira will tell me why that's a legal hit when we come back. Back here, are you putting Red Bulls on in our?
That's a bang. It's a battery. Like
Jason Feller got in the chat room and said something about Del Tufo batteries, making fun of me.
Fellas entered the chat, huh?
Oh yeah. So
Okay.
I then went back and we're fully charged like drinking a Red Bull.
Well, as you know, here on the program, as you know, here on the Rich Eisen Show, we ask Mike Del Tufo when he makes a mistake. Go, my bad, right?
Yeah,
You
it's
can
like I
raise
do.
your
I
hand,
put the
my
hand
bad.
up. I
You
say
raise
my
the
bad.
hand up. The hand up.
That was my
bad.
fault. I accepted
I got
responsibility.
it. Here I'm putting my hand up and say my bad. I saw last night the hit that Kayvon Thibodeau took on his right leg, I guess his right shin. Thaddeus Moss coming across inside the tackle box, goes low on him and cuts him down. And I wrote penalty, hefty fine, suspension, nothing less is acceptable. And then, man, did it just hit my inbox from offensive linemen and defensive linemen and people who know the rule book better than I do. First one was Marshall Newhouse, who I've known for a very long time. People, this is literally a routine play, a routine block, and a routine defensive technique happening here. Inside the tackle box, the defender is facing him. It's just a bad-looking result.
Okay.
Then I appreciated Marshall referring to people, not just me directly, even though he did call me out with my tweet.
Other people probably felt the same.
I appreciate that. Brian Balaga, we all know him, right? Yeah. He's very good at this position. He had a GIF, absolutely not. That was a
Ryan Reynolds
GIF, absolutely not. Okay, thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. More counties heard from. You got any more? You got any more here? All right, Torrey Smith. What do we got here? What do we got? You got something here? Okay, there we go. Torrey Smith, isn't this place still legal currently? I appreciate Torrey assuming I know it better than others, and he was very gentle there. Isn't this place still legal currently? Yes, Torrey Smith, it is in fact legal currently. I just looked at it, and I thought like, oh gosh, it looked awful. Sure enough, today we found out MCL strain, 3-week injury. Kid might not be out there week 1 for the New York Giants. How about that? Giants starting the season, and this kid might not be out there. Let me see. The Giants are taking on the Tennessee Titans. Boy, you'd like to have Kayvon Thibodeau out there, wouldn't you? Trying to seal that edge.
Sneaky, interesting game.
I agree. There's going to be a lot of hard hitting in that game for sure.
Yeah.
So Kayvon Thibodeau had his knee crumpled and his ankle crumpled, and I thought it was illegal, and it is not at all illegal. It is within the boundaries of the game. So there's that. Now, then, as we are back here on the Rich Eisen Show, me talking about to our rest of our audience on YouTube and Odyssey, I'm catching the terrestrial radio audience up to speed. I did, in fact, misidentify the Kayvon Thibodeau hit as illegal, thinking there should be a fine and all of that. And boy, I mean, honestly, I'm getting people saying, do you either know football or you do not?
It's amazing how many people on the comments know they should be coaching football.
And just to point out, by the way, and I understand people might get upset with this comment. If I was a woman, they wouldn't be. They'd be off the planet. They couldn't talk football ever again. That's the sexism. Like, it's just like I just didn't know the rule book, which I didn't. But a woman does it. Forget it. Yeah, they'll never be heard from again in many people's minds. So let's just focus on that everybody makes mistakes. I'm clearly one of them. I just think this shouldn't be legal at all. Like, what? How the hell is that legal? How the hell would a general manager, a coach, or an owner of a team want their star player to be so exposed? Now, interestingly enough, I was poking around. I heard part of that might be on Thibodeau too. Thibodeau should know it's coming. Right. He ran straight at it.
He was kind of bracing for an up high block.
And then a veteran should know this is coming and get ready and position himself to spin off it or hit the guy with your shoulder pad. So, why is this legal? I figured let's call my buddy, Mike Pereira, who loves pointing out when I'm incorrect. He's on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line, the NFL Fox rules analyst, former head of NFL refs, Mike Pereira, back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well, except for the fact that I had a knee-jerk reaction to a hit by Thaddeus Moss on Kayvon Thibodeau that looked dirty, but is legal. And so my question for you is, Mike, why is that block that damn near took out one of the top rookies' knees last night legal?
Well, I mean, I guess I would ask the reverse. Why would it be illegal?
I mean, it's not illegal to block below the waist all the time. And that particular block was inside the tight end box, so that makes it legal. Moss actually started within the tight end box. So even from that position, it's legal to block below the waist. Had he been coming from outside in motion, what they call a crackback block, it would still have been legal because it was on the opposite side of where Moss lined up of the ball. So there's really nothing, there's no category that you could have put that in as illegal. However, that being said, I talked to the league this morning, and it's something that the competition committee has been looking at. And all you need is a bit of an uproar, a significant injury, and you could look at saying, okay, we're gonna ban all blocks below the waist, even if it happens in the what you call now the tight end box. So I imagine this will generate more discussion, and I think they've talked about it the last 2 years, as a matter of fact. But once they got to that tight end box and basically made blocks below the waist legal in the tight end blocks and illegal anywhere outside the tight end box, there was just no place to put that action by Moss yesterday to make it illegal.
Well, how about below the knee? How about that? Or you hit someone in the ankle? Because that's where it's, the knee is what we always look at, but that ankle is what kind of folded as well last night. I mean, again, I am not an expert, clearly, when it comes to offensive line play and blocking and things of that nature, but it just strikes me that if you are blocking below the waist and you block right on the knee, so many players tell me over and over again they'd rather be hit in the head than in the knee. I keep hearing that all the time.
Obviously, that was, when all the emphasis went on protection of the head and neck area, the consensus of some within the competition committee that you were going to force the players to go low. And there's like an unwritten rule with players saying that you don't want to go low, but that's obviously changed. And, the quarterback, a lot of it, I think, has to do with the fact of, are you in a defenseless position? Are you vulnerable? Or do you, as in the case with Thibodeau, did you see that block coming? And I think he did, and he kind of braced himself in a funny position, actually, kind of turning a bit sideways, which maybe even exposed his knee a little bit more. But, you're getting to the stage in both college and NFL football where each and every year you seem to restrict the rule in terms of when it is legal to block below the waist, and we'll probably see it. I mean, if they've been talking about it for 2 years, which I'm told they have been, if they've been talking about it for 2 years, I'm not going to be surprised if we see something, and maybe it's what you say. Maybe it's, okay, it's an Eisen. You've got to be, if it's at the knee area or below, then it's going to be illegal. You got to be above the knee. Maybe that's maybe that is coming, but not in this case. It wasn't illegal.
Okay, so you had mentioned quarterback hits and things of that nature moments ago. Is there what's the rules of emphasis this year that the league is going to be calling or not calling so far?
Well, to me, Rich, when I look at all the emphasis, there were no rule changes, right?
Right.
I mean, there was one rule change, and it applied only in the postseason, and it was overtime, and it was the Chiefs and the Bills. So that was the only actual change. The typical things of contact to the quarterback's head, I mean, that is constant. You look at that. The taunting issue is still the same. But the illegal contact is probably the one. And that's the one, to me, that changes the game. And it's not a rule change. The rule is exactly the same. But the emphasis is not. They want more calls. And why do they want that? Because the committee looks at numbers. You look at the 2021 season, and all of a sudden you see that points per game were down 4 points a game. Passing yards per game were down 24 yards. And so they look and they say, why? Well, there's two ways to look at it, in my opinion. You could go look at the numbers, what they were in 2021, and recognize that 49.6 points per game was like all-time high, 4 points above the norm. And the passing yards were up too. But you look at the numbers as they reflect the year before, and they're down, and so you make an emphasis of it. We did it in 2003 when I was there. And all of a sudden, the number of illegal contact calls in the year went from 79 in 2003 to 191 in 2004. Did it again in 2013 when the numbers were 59, and it went to, I think it was about 160 the following year. Last year, there was only 39 calls, which was one of the lowest ever in terms of illegal contact since the rules came in. So you're going to see more of those, and it will frustrate the daylights out of people because it's one thing to have a 5-yard penalty when it's 3rd and 17, but when that 5-yard penalty for illegal contact, which has nothing to do with the severity of the contact, even if it doesn't affect the receiver, if it's initiated by the defender, it carries that 5 yards and an automatic first down, and so it becomes a huge penalty. So
that's the thing with fans, Mike, is that gets them particularly frustrated is when it's away from the play and you don't see it on the screen, and then all of a sudden a flag comes in and it affects, whether a defense gets off the field or not, and it's away from the play. So you're saying, weeks 1 through 4, we should expect to see a ton more of those until there's such a hue and cry or players get used to it, and then we'll see less of it? Is that the way it's going to go?
This is not one like, okay, we're going to get the tackles up on the line of scrimmage, and it's not one that they're going to call a lot in the preseason and then not call as much during the regular season. This is a constant one. I mean, the committee is adamant about this. They didn't like that number of illegal contact calls in the 2021 season. So we're going to see a lot of that. And I know fans get furious about, 3rd and 17 and a 5-yard penalty makes it 1st and 10. But the theory being with the committee and the rule was that if it was 3rd and 15, then you're going to be actively aggressive as a corner when it comes to, playing bump and run or riding beyond 5 yards, because that a 5-yard penalty would make it still 3rd and 12. And so, listen, it's an offensive league. We know that, right? And so they like points, they like yardage, and I guess they like illegal contact penalties too, because they'll see more.
Mike Pereira, bless you. I can hear you're in an airport. Go travel safely. We'll chat down the line during the season. You're the best. Thanks.
You got it. Thanks.
That's Mike Pereira, Fox Sports NFL rules expert here on the Rich Eisen Show. Oh, boy. Get ready for it. The most frustrating penalty in football is the roughing the passer where the quarterback barely gets touched, right? Helmet-to-helmet contact where it's really helmet-to-shoulder contact. Right. But a close second or third is the illegal contact penalty that happens away from the play.
It has nothing to do with the
your team is playing tough defense. It's 3rd and, as he said, 17. Quarterback looks to his right, throws down the field, incomplete, no flag. Wait a minute, there's a flag on the play. Was that pass interference? No. There was illegal contact on the receiver at the top of your screen, out of view from you sitting there at home watching. And it was just a shove 6 yards down the field. Quarterback never looked there, never had any intention of going there, but it's still a foul. And Mike just basically told us, get ready for a lot of those. Ugh. Coming. Because the competition committee wants it called. Talk about Breaking Bad there, huh? How about that for a little segue? Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad, is coming up next in studio. But we're still here, right here on our YouTube stream, just to expound on this a little bit more. Usually the emphasis penalties are called significantly more in the preseason. Haven't seen it, though, that much in the preseason.
Yeah, not really.
And then they are just a rash of penalties weeks 1 through maybe 4. And then they go away because there will be an adjustment. Players will adjust to it. There's always, an adjustment period, and they do listen to it. And then there's such a hue and cry from the fan base.
Yeah, Tom Brady tweets about it.
That's all you need is Tom Brady to tweet about it, like
Yeah.
he did the holding penalties on that Thursday night years ago, and then it was over. The emphasis on the holding penalties. Interesting, that was a night where Sean Hockley was going crazy, and he's the one who threw the flag on Brady after taking one in the chops for his only unsportsmanlike conduct penalty of his career.
After he's bleeding and ear-holing Hockley, and then boom,
By the
penalty.
way, great name, write that down.
Ear-holing Hockley?
Ear-holing Hockley is a great fantasy team name entry late in the season. Ear-holing Hockley is a great fantasy team name. Or what, a very unknown REM album? Ear-holing Hockley?
Where
do you come up with the groups?
I don't know.
Where you come up with the group?
I don't know.
Rich goes.
Yeah, ska band.
It's definitely not a Right Said Fred album. You know what I mean?
Nice. One hit wonder, Right Said
Too sexy for my. No, they have two.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, this is the way it's coming, and we like front-loading you all out there who consume this program with that information.
I mean, it's going to be super annoying, but yeah, I mean, hopefully it goes away the second half of the year.
It's not usually the second half of the year. It's usually the second quarter of the season.
Yeah.
But I hate those penalties because you don't see them sitting at home. You don't see them sitting at home, and it makes you think that what you're seeing isn't. They're usually because they're away from the play. Whoever is in charge of putting that yellow flag logo up on the bottom right of your screen to know that it's been a flag on the play, so you don't see it thrown, and sometimes it's not there on your screen, and so it comes out of nowhere, and that makes it worse, even though, it was called on time.
Right.
You just learn about it late, which makes you crazy. Vince Gilligan, Better Call Saul conversation coming up next.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
Brady and Gronk to come to the Raiders. And at the last minute, Gruden blew the deal up.
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
I was sitting there thinking, you're sticking with that mother.
Earlier on the show, senior writer for the MMQB, Albert Breer, Fox Sports rules analyst, Mike Pereira, co-host of The Room, Jordan Palmer. Coming up, co-creator of the AMC series Better Call Saul, Vince Gilligan. And now, it's It's Rich Eisen.
Yes, it is. Can confirm. Right here on the Rich Eisen Show. I am sitting here on our set here on YouTube, as well as our terrestrial radio network, coast to coast. We say hello to our Odyssey listeners, and then those who are listening on our podcast version, whenever you darn well please, because it is your God-given right to do that sort of thing right here. On this very busy Monday, we say hello to everyone out there, and we are thrilled to have here in studio once again the very first in-studio guest in the history of this program, Chris Brockman. We were 0 days old when this man first stopped by in that October in 2014, and now he is here on a very busy day in the middle of an incredible stretch. Just 1 week after the finale of an incredible television show, Better Call Saul, the writer and director and co-creator of that show, as well as the creator of Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan, here on the program. Good to see you here, Vince.
Great to see you, Rich.
Yes, I agree. Round of applause for sure. Let's get into it here. How did you find the finale? The reaction to your work, Vince, is what?
It seems, anecdotally, it seems really good. I never looked that stuff up. It's like a rabbit hole you would disappear down.
Right.
I feel like, but I hear people seem to like it, so I'm very happy about that.
Well, as you might imagine, people have opinions. Our opinion here is I thought it was fantastic, and I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here. I said it with you outside of the room as well.
Thank you.
How long did you and Peter Gould and the rest of your staff and the rest of your team and the rest of your co-creator, Peter Gould, and how long in advance did you know about the finale that you mapped it out? How long ago was it?
We were lucky. We had about 13 months in the writer's room.
Right.
I think is what it was. We had the longest time we've ever had. Maybe it was more. Partly because of COVID, partly because it takes us forever to figure this stuff out. But we didn't know the ending at the beginning of that 13 months. We were kind of figuring it out as we went, as always. So probably, I don't know, a couple months before we wrote that last one, we had it figured out. A couple of weeks, maybe.
A couple of weeks, huh?
Well, all the little details, I guess. It took us. It takes a while. It takes a while to figure all this stuff out.
Well, and again, I just kind of give a little heads up, and you were kind enough in the back of in our back green room to give me the green light as well. You consider a week is enough of a time period to start talking about spoilers? Are you
you
fine
know what?
with that?
I guess anybody who's watching who hasn't seen it yet, just maybe. Well, I don't want to tell anybody to tune out.
I understand if they do. I understand if they would, and then return to this conversation later on, because I just thought the ending was perfect. Because there's ways that either A, he would completely get away with it, or B, he would wind up like Walter White, spoiler alert, dead on a floor.
Right.
But him being incarcerated and having to pay his debt to society, which he personally worsened because he copped to it himself, because I guess he wanted to impress Kim Wexler. Is that what he wanted to do, or redeem himself?
I think he wanted to atone. I think there's a certain amount of redemption. The way we saw it is a little bit of Dickens' A Christmas Carol. There's a little bit of redemption in there, self-redemption, and I think he wanted to atone for his guilt, and he wanted to basically apologize. He did it in a very operatic way that wound up, spoiler alert, that he was going to get 7 years in the penitentiary. Instead, he gets 86.
Right.
But he seems to be doing okay at the end. He's doing the same job he was doing at the Cinnabon.
That's right. Yeah, you saw the way that the dough was being kneaded by the
same machine and everything. So,
and that's obviously purposeful that you would do that sort of
thing. Well,
it's
one of those ironic things that he winds up doing the same job in the federal pen in Colorado that he was doing at the Cinnabon in Omaha.
Can you walk me through what were some of the other ideas that you had but discarded for the end of the show?
I wish I had some good ones for you, Rich. It's like we didn't really. I mean, you talk about everything, but I had some good ones for you for Breaking Bad.
Right.
But I don't remember that many this time around. It just felt like he needed to go to prison. Walter White died. Jesse Pinkman rode off into the sunset, went to Alaska, and hopefully he got away with it. That's the guy that got away. Here's hoping. Knock on wood. Jimmy really felt like he needed to go to prison probably because he's a lawyer. That felt like the most proper way to the legal aspect of it. Going into the system felt right. So I can't really remember any other good ones.
Chris, you
Yeah, Vince. Was there any thought of having him take the deal, do the 7 and be done with it?
You know what? It actually felt better.
That was kind of such a fun scene of him in front of the FBI and negotiating. And hey, I got this. Yeah. Wait a minute, I want the ice cream. Yeah. Like, was there any thought of that being the end?
No, because we wanted to prove he could do it. We really wanted to prove he was the best lawyer, and was able to basically, win in with this amazing bunch of legal talent, arrayed against him. He was nonetheless able to pull this off. So once we proved to the audience and he proved himself, he could beat all these other guys, these heavy hitters at their own legal game. Then we felt like, no, he's kind of got a, I don't know. It sounds very, Judeo-Christian, whatever, morality, whatever. But, it just felt like he kind of had to pay for his sins.
Yeah, I thought it was cool that he pointed out that the guy he was going up against, the FBI prosecutor, had never lost. I feel like that was kind of an important note there. And then he's like, well, watch this. Watch what I'm about to do.
Vince Gilligan here on the Rich Eisen Show. And I appreciate you bearing with me as I just suddenly lost my voice right there. Right here on the Rich Eisen Show. So you didn't consider killing him off? You didn't? That wasn't an idea that you had? That you just thought?
I don't know that anybody wants to see that. And our character of Lalo always called him La Cucaracha. He's the cockroach. And what does a cockroach do? A cockroach survives. And it felt like it was appropriate that he lived.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up Lalo, because I think that's one of the many, many brilliant aspects of Better Call Saul is the characters you created just for this show. And Lalo Salamanca is one of the... I mean, that he was just Tony Dalton, the actor, right?
Tony Dalton.
He was just remarkable. And obviously Kim Wexler, that you created Kim. And then one of the aspects about Better Call Saul that I was wondering how you would finish it up was, did she exist during the Breaking Bad era? Like, was she on the planet? Did she exist?
Yeah.
And she did. She absolutely did. Yeah. And I thought that was, why did you choose those paths for the Kim Wexler character?
We didn't want to kill her off either. We love Ray Seahorn. She is just the sweetest, funniest, just most charming person in real life. She's such a wonderful actor, and she's just fantastic. It would have, and it was funny. Peter and I would get questions for years on end.
Yes.
You're not going to, oh man, you're not going to kill off Kim. You're not going to kill her off. And we'd go, well, you just have to watch. And we had no intention ever of killing her off.
Well, you had to leave it open-ended, right?
Yeah. But, but it's, and you don't want to ruin anything for people. So we were a little bit, we were coy to the point of being a little bit, a little bit sadistic maybe.
Well, you see, it was just, for those who know Breaking Bad, and obviously that's most everyone that's watching Better Call Saul, you're wondering how somebody who is so sweet on Kim Wexler and is somebody whose moral compass always was found deep within the garbage, in his world, because of the way he felt about her and the way she kind of, before she started, I guess, acting in with him, that how that guy could be Saul Goodman watching Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, I mean, it kind of, tore him apart in a way where he might have just thrown himself into the dark side completely. Is that a fair way of looking at it?
Very fair, very astute way of looking at it. To us, he became Saul Goodman as a sort of an FU to just, so you won't be with me. So we're bad together. We're bad for the universe. We're bad for all the people around us. I'll show you bad. And it was just this self-defeating, weird caricature that he became. He kind of hardened into this legal caricature, and that was, it took us forever to figure that out. Once we finally figured that out, the question Peter Gould would always ask, which was a great question, is he would say at the beginning of the run of the series, he would say, what is the problem that becoming Saul Goodman solves? And it was a twofold answer, I guess. It was, if you build this armor around you, if you're this legal caricature, I keep calling them, then you don't feel anymore. You're not worried about things. You're happy-go-lucky, and nothing really matters. So it's kind of an armor. and it's also kind of a screw you to the world. And you know, when we realized that, we realized we don't want to see this guy end like this. We want to see him redeem himself, and that's where the ending comes from, really.
Yeah, and then why shoot the current day in black and white? Why'd you make that decision?
We wanted something that we love black and white. Peter used to teach, was a film professor at USC Film School,
yes.
And I'm a film geek. We're both film geeks, and we both love old film noirs. So black and white just looks good to us. Maybe not everybody, but we're old school and we love it. And also, it was a way of quickly differentiating the past from the present. The past was in color, Jimmy, and then he becomes Saul Goodman, and then the present is Gene Takovic, the character that he becomes, the guy that works in Omaha at the Cinnabon.
Right, yeah. and just becomes a guy who slips back into who he was, slipping Jimmy one more time.
Exactly.
He gets right back into that. Yeah. Why did he get back in? Like, what I guess is the reason why, because Kim rejected him on his birthday when he calls him from the payphone? Like, why do you think
He's very self-destructive. I think it's a lot of that, is what you just said. And he's just got this itch that he just can't scratch. He just, and by the way, nothing wrong with working at a Cinnabon in real life. But for all the folks, I know you're not saying it. I'm saying to all the folks who are like, hey, why does my job suck so bad? We're not saying it does.
Right.
It doesn't. But he's just this guy who really, what was the old expression in Heat? The juice is worth the squeeze. Right. He was in it for the juice, I guess. He was in it for the high he got from scamming. And also, at that last bit there, he's just angry at the world. He's angry at himself. He's angry at her. I think ultimately he's angry at himself, and he's becomes very self-destructive. It's like he's trying to get caught in that second to last episode, I think.
I guess and it's interesting how he's trying to get caught, and then he gets caught breaking into a man's house who has cancer.
Yeah.
And the line he says to one of his accomplices who refused to do that job because the guy had cancer, he goes, what, an a-hole? Yeah. A guy with cancer can't be an a-hole.
Yeah.
And for all the Breaking Bad fans, it's just like, what a line. That basically his history with Walter White causes him to have such an animus against this poor guy.
Yeah.
And that's what causes him to get caught.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think about that? I know that's a grand question just to ask. Like, how do you think about that? How did you come up with that sort of stuff, man?
Absolutely. I love that you dug
we're
it.
Into it.
I know. I love it, and I appreciate it, guys. And it's just it's not the most interesting answer, but the truest answer is it just takes it takes a village. I mean, I didn't think all this stuff by myself. I half the time I'm in the room and everybody else is saying, what if this, what if that? And I'm like, yeah, and I'm a beat behind. But it's a group effort, and it takes a whole bunch of us, and it takes a lot of time. It took months and months. Luckily, Sony and AMC gave us that time, our studio and our network, and they allowed us. Because, back when I worked on network TV, it was great. I got to work on the X-Files for 7 years. I love that job. Mm-hmm. But you were running for your life. It's like, it's like on I Love Lucy and Lucy and Ethel with the chocolates. Yeah. It's just you're just putting out the best you can put out in that very finite time period. This was so luxurious, having all this time to, and then you just game it out. You say, what if we do this? And you think about it, and then you say 2 days later, you say, no, that's not going to work because of this. And you're trying to be a chess player. You're trying to game it out 12, 20 moves in advance. Trouble for me is I'm not much of a chess player. But were you ever told by anybody, again, you've had such an amazing amount of success, maybe not, by anyone at AMC, because the burn was really slow in the very beginning of your series, where I honestly thought it was going to be like a whole bunch of Breaking Bad people right off the bat. It was its own narrative. It was its own show, which is terrific, and it was great. And you had us at hello, and you kept us all the way through all those years. But did you ever get anybody saying, where's the Breaking Bad in this thing? Did that ever come across your... These guys have been great to work for. I got to say, I'm not just saying it because, that's what you do on TV, but they're really... we're a great bunch of guys. They really didn't push us, and I've been pushed before in the past on shows, and you know,
right.
And it's a better feeling when they let you, you know, they let you do your thing. And then the flip side of that is you can't complain afterward when it doesn't work. You're like, well, they let us do what we wanted.
So then why did you do it that way?
It just felt right. It just felt like the way to go. And it, you know, and I think a lot of people did tune out. Again, anecdotally, I'm sure I hear a lot of people saying, it was too slow. It started off too slow. And I think you just nailed it. What it was there wasn't enough Breaking Bad in it from the get-go. And we didn't sit down and write out a show Bible and say, here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to have Breaking Bad in there. We're going to make it slow. You don't, it's more organic than that. You just sort of sit down and you say, who is this guy right now? He's this hard-charging young wannabe. I mean, he's a lawyer, but he wants to have success. He's scrappy. He's an underdog. You know, you just sort of, the story takes you where it takes you, and the chips fall where they may. And in this case, luckily, nobody pushed us that hard at AMC or Sony to make it go fast.
Is it true the first original idea was half-hour comedy, not an hour?
Yeah,
long?
we did. We talked about.
Really?
There was a show, I'm getting the name wrong. What was it? Dr. Katz. There was an animated.
Sure.
It was a really funny show. Basically, comedians coming on talking to a psychiatrist about their problems. We thought, very derivative of that excellent show. We were saying, why can't it be done? You know, not animated, but why can't it be? You know, people walk into Saul Goodman's, you know, iconic office, and we could get a bunch of comics. We could get, you know, all these great. Folks coming in with their legal issue, and we literally talked about that for a week or two, Peter and I.
Really?
Yeah, we did. Because we sold this thing. This is like people out there, you know, scrapping trying to get a show sold. They're like, right. God, I hate this story. You know, they're thinking watching this, but I don't blame them. But it was when Breaking Bad ended, we were lucky. We could write our own ticket, particularly if you know what we wanted to do next had to do with that world. And we said, yeah, let's do Better Call Saul. And everybody said, great. And then Peter and I, once we signed on the dotted line, we thought, oh, man, what are we doing now? What is this show?
Well, I remember, you were kind of up to Vince Gilligan here on the Rich Eisen Show, our first in-studio guest when we first turned the lights on in the studio. And you had just come, Chris, right, didn't you say you had just come from the writer's room, right?
Just come from season 1 writer's room.
Right, of Better Call Saul.
It was about a 30-minute interview, turned into 90.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty much what you were doing. And so, you know, I totally understand why, you know, you would be able to bat around some ideas, but clearly I think you landed on the right one, and that this was the one character, right? Like, was it another character that you were thinking of maybe going, or was it always Saul from the very beginning? It was Bob Odenkirk, it was Saul, and that was it from the beginning.
Yeah, you know what it was? We weren't really thinking of a spinoff. It's just it was so much fun. I think the very first time anyone floated the idea, it was one of our crew people on the set, and it was probably only. It was in Breaking Bad. It was maybe only an episode or two after Saul had first appeared. It might have been in season 2 of Breaking Bad. And one of our crew folks, one of our grips or gaffers said, you know, when you guys are doing the Saul Goodman spinoff, you really need to, and everybody laughed. We all laughed. But the joke it's kind of planted a seed in our heads. And we thought, you know, that would be fun to do a spinoff. We weren't really thinking, it wasn't this logistical kind of, gee, what we need to do next is spin somebody off. Who do we pick? It kind of naturally grew from wanting to keep the crew together, thinking Bob's character is just fun to write. He just plain fun, you know, and it really kind of sprung from that kind of a, you know, very relaxed and you know, nobody was thinking that far ahead. It was that disorganized a beginning. Really.
Well, I mean, two things leap to mind. Number one, because that allows you to have as many characters from the Breaking Bad world if you set it when you set it, which is behind the, you know, back story leading up to the Breaking Bad world, and then have some black and white about what happens to him now that he is on the run under a new identity. Just brilliant that you could do that. And then number two is Bryan Cranston came on the show a few years ago to promote his book, A Life in Parts. Yeah. And we talked to him about the character Tim Whatley, who he played, the dentist on Seinfeld. Yeah. And the scene where he took a hit of the laughing gas, himself before administering it to Jerry.
Right.
And that was an ad lib that he did, suggested to him by a member of the crew, similar to what you just said.
Wow.
Yes, he told that story.
The lighting guy or something.
Yeah. So somebody suggests, you know what would be funny is you're the dentist, you take a hit of it yourself. And he's like, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And then he said he did that and the whole crew broke up. And then he looked at the lighting guy and the lighting guy goes, you know, like, hey. And he used a phrase that we use here all the time, best idea wins.
Oh, yeah.
He uses that. We use that phrase all the time.
Yeah.
It's amazing that's how Better Call Saul first got planted in your brain.
It is. And by the way, the funniest line we ever had on Breaking Bad came from one of our grips.
Which is what?
To me, my favorite.
Okay.
Everyone's got a favorite, but it was an episode called 4 Days Out. It was Walt and Jesse are cooked did this marathon cook in their RV, and now the battery's dead in their RV. They're 30 miles from nowhere. They're dying. They're dehydrating. They've run out of water.
Yes.
And Jesse says, "Come on, you're a scientist. You got to figure this out. We got these spare parts. You could build a dune buggy, or you could build a robot, or," and you know, and Walt says, I forget some of the dialogue, but Walt winds up saying, "You gave me the idea," and in the original script, you gave me the idea. We're going to build a battery, and we're going to. And one of our and we had finished the day. We had wrapped for the day.
Oh boy!
And one of the grips said, "You know, it would be funny if you said you gave me the idea yourself." And Jesse goes, "A robot?" And it made everybody laugh on the set. And talk about a group effort. Not only did this wonderful crewman come up with this line, but Michelle McLaren, our director of that episode, looked around and said, "We got to get that."
Turn the machines back on.
Literally. Kind of fibbed, flat out lied to our producer. Said, we had an issue. We had a hair in the gate. Luckily, back then we were shooting film. You could get away with that. We had a hair in the gate. No, they're on to you now.
Great,
but we got a hair in the gate. Oh crap, we got to do that last one. And he did the line. It's in the episode. My personal favorite line in the whole series.
Best idea wins.
Yeah. And it's
Cranston said that. I'll never forget that line.
And that's the way it should be. And it's not always that way. I mean, not every show is that way. Sometimes it's kind of rigid, and sometimes showrunner says, "Nah, it's got to be my way." And I always think, poor you. That's like you are missing out on so much greatness by not listening to your crew, to the people around you. They're full of great ideas. And best idea should always win, I think.
I love it. Vince Gilligan here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's take a break. When we come back here, we're going to, on the YouTube, we're going to show a clip of Better Call Saul from the second to last episode, which you wrote and directed. It's brilliant. And then we'll talk a little bit more, and then we'll take some people's phone calls after Vince takes off. We're back here in a moment, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, we're still here on our YouTube stream, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Again, 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Vince Gilligan, you wrote and directed the second to last episode, and Peter Gould wrote and directed the final episode.
Yeah, Peter did a wonderful job.
How did you guys divide that? I mean, this is both your baby here. How'd you guys come up with that? Talk about collaboration. I mean,
well, that was a no-brainer to me. Peter is so wonderfully collaborative, and Peter said, how do you want to do this? And I said, Peter, you got to write and direct the last one. And because the show, it was our baby. It is our baby. It's all of our baby, not just Peter and myself, but Peter and I were the co-creators, and Peter, and the whole plan always was we would get it up and running together after, and after the first season, I'd go off and do other stuff. And I loved the show so much. I had so much fun doing it that selfishly I stuck around a little longer than I originally intended to. And Peter was very supportive of that. But somewhere around season 3 or season 4, I left to go to do other stuff. And then Peter was very welcoming when I came back the final season. But it was only right. The short answer is it only felt right to me that Peter write and direct the last one, and he killed it. He did a great job.
Well, you killed it as well, because it is a scene that I think Rhea Seehorn should win the Emmy for on its own. Yeah. The Kim Wexler character, after we were talking about it before the show, I mean, she kept it together the entirety of the series.
Yeah.
Where all of the bad stuff she did, she just pushed down in her psyche. Yeah. And now she had just flown back to Albuquerque to go and cop to the crime, if you will, or being present for the death of Hamlin, right? Yeah. Howard Hamlin. And she just revealed to the widow of Howard Hamlin how he died. And she's now on the tram back to her plane to go home. And this is the clip directed by Vince Gilligan, the penultimate episode of Better Call Saul. I don't even know what to say.
She's something. No, Ray is something. She's something else. I was looking forward to that scene for a long time. And we did that on a real moving bus. I say that because for folks who know, how movies and TV shows are made now, you can fake anything. And typically, scene like that, you'd just have you'd have a bus, or you'd have a bus cut in half or whatever, and then you'd have green screen outside the windows. But that was the real, it's like they got like a fleet of these buses. The odds of you riding on one of these are actually not, are actually pretty good if you actually go to Albuquerque and rent a car there at the airport. And we just drove around in a big circle all night. And
is that right?
How
many takes?
Actually, when I say all night, that part's a little bit of an exaggeration. We didn't do it that long. We did 2 takes.
I can imagine how a human being can't conjure that up, no matter how great of an actress she is. And she is like, I truly believe it. Like, give her the statue based off of that.
I think so too. That's my wife, by the way, the hand that comes in to
Is that right?
Yeah, that's Holly.
Wow.
She's you see her a little earlier in the scene, you see her sitting next to Ray. But it was, we did 1 take and it was perfect. And then me being me, I'm neurotic. I'm thinking,
how do you go up to an actress and
one
say,
more for safety?
Come on.
Come on. I know.
Come on, Vince.
I'm a jerk.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What did she say to you?
Actually, she was, I think it was okay. And I know it was bad, but I think it was okay because she knew. I said, you got it. We got it. I'm greedy and I'm anxiety ridden, and it's just me. Could we do one more just to have 2? You never know. And I think it was okay because she knew in her heart she already had it. And I think we did use take 2 for what it's worth.
Is that right? That's the set.
Wow. Yeah.
Because again, the way she did it, and again, we're back here in our terrestrial radio outfit talking to Vince Gilligan about the scene where Ray Seahorn is finally realizing what Kim Lex. I mean, talk about, she was just wound tight. Even her hair was wound tight. Her hairstyle all those years just wound tight, and that tight ponytail. And so here she is now letting it all out. Yeah. And I just love the way that she's just sitting there, and you could see like she's just thinking of it, shaking her head as you sometimes think of, I can't believe I did that. Like that's the international symbol of I can't believe this happened.
Exactly.
And then it just boom.
Yeah.
Comes out of her crying hysterically.
Yeah. And it's ultimately a good thing. It's cathartic. It's like, and we had that discussion. She works so hard. She makes it look so easy. But all the greats make it look easy. But I think most of the greats, they're really, you don't see the blood, sweat, and tears. And she was thinking about it and writing notes about it and working on it for days and weeks leading up to it. We talked a lot about it, and I said, it's sadness. It's just this great well of regret and despair, but it's also kind of cathartic. It also feels kind of good to let it out. And I think you see both of that and both those emotions in that scene.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
Just spectacular. How dare you make her do it a second time?
I know.
You mentioned not ever wanting to kill off Kim's character. Thank you for that. I don't think we would have been able to handle it. But one person who didn't make it out was Howard Hamlin. Did you always have this end in sight for Howard? And
Patrick Fabian's been on here this show multiple times, by the way.
It was going to be at the hands of Lalo. Was it always going to be like that?
You guys would be amazed. Everybody would be amazed how. Because, I take it as the highest compliment. You guys ask questions like that. Yeah. You're like, oh, and you must have had that figured out way in advance. The beginning of it all, Howard Hamlin was the bad guy, and that was our intention. When I'm talking at the beginning of season 1, he was the bad guy. He seemed like the obvious choice for bad guy. This good-looking, handsome, pulled together, always everything, you never a hair out of place.
With the Namaste license plate.
Yeah, and you're just
like, you're bar.
Yeah, you're just, the pump is primed for you to hate this guy. And then we realized, wait a minute, the bad guy, the more interesting bad guy is Chuck McGill, played by the amazing Michael McKean.
Right.
And have him be the bad guy, Jimmy's own brother.
Right.
So you figure this stuff out as you go, I guess, is the short answer. And I don't know when we came up with him dying, but it felt like if Kim and Jimmy are really sticking it to Howard, there needs to be some consequence they don't see coming. That's kind of the way you kind of do the calculus. When
I did scream out loud. I didn't see it coming.
Too. That was rough.
I didn't see it coming either.
Yeah.
I did not see it coming either. And again, Ray had so much of her character doing some bad stuff and bad stuff happening for her to start thinking about it in her head. I'd love to get into her process. That really was unbelievable. Vince,
she'd be great on this show. I'm sure she'd love to.
Anybody from your world is welcome here. That's for sure. Vince Gilligan here. A few more minutes left with the co-creator and writer and director of Better Call Saul. All right, let's get into it. So you got how many? It looked like you got a couple days with Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul.
We got a couple days with him.
Did you only got a couple scenes out of him? I mean, one together and then one separate. Why did you have Aaron Paul connect with Kim? What was that? Because you could have. You could have connected any dots you wanted, and these are the dots that you connected. So what do you got for me on that front?
I don't have a great answer other than it just felt good. It just felt right. And I just love those two. And both of those characters on their individual shows, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, they were characters we didn't realize when we hired them both respectively for both shows. We didn't realize how important they were going to be to both of their individual series. We didn't know, I've told this story many times, but Jesse Pinkman, we were going to kill him off at the end of season 1. And season 1 was only going to be 9 episodes, Breaking Bad. And we were going to kill him off because I figured dumbly that, he will have fulfilled his utility to the plot. He would have gotten Walter White into this world of criminality. And then once that was done, you don't need him anymore. That was so short-sighted. And then, of course, he winds up being, integrally important to Breaking Bad. And the same goes for Ray's character, Kim Wexler. She's just, there wouldn't be, I don't think we would have had as much love, as many viewers, as much ink written about the show if it weren't for this character of Ray. She's just fantastic. And so just seeing those two together, both number 2 on the call sheet, so to speak.
There it is outside of Saul Goodman's office, sharing smoke.
Yeah. I feel so bad that night.
Was it really pouring?
Oh, no, it wasn't pouring. Okay. That's all fake rain, courtesy Werner Hanline, our wonderful special effects genius. But it was miserable. It's just as miserable as a real thing to shoot in, I can tell you that.
Sure.
But it was months ahead of when the whole rest of the script was written, because it was the small window we had to get Aaron Paul. And he was such a trooper. It's just peeing down rain, fake rain, but still peeing down rain all night. It's cold. And he does not smoke. I think he used to in real life. But I said, I got to have a reason for you two to be standing there talking as long as you are, because the vibe from her, rightly so, is that she's not going to spend a lot of time here talking with you. So
she just signed divorce papers.
Exactly.
She kind of wants to get out of there.
And he's kind of looking her up and down like, man, you're pretty milfy, which she is.
Yeah.
He was smoking these clove cigarettes, and he was such a trooper. I didn't even know this until late in the night. He would do the scene. You do a great many takes, especially when, like me, you're making people do it more than once. And he would go inside, and I think he might even have thrown up. He had such a migraine from these these fake cigarettes, and he was such a trooper. I didn't even know it until my AD said, do you have to do another one?
Yeah,
he's really suffering. And he's the sweetest guy in the world.
Well, and then there's the scene where it's Walter White and Jesse Pinkman back together in the RV with Saul Goodman in there, and the RV's not starting, and just the byplay between Jesse and Walter. It was just so delicious to see the derision and the anger and the odd buddy aspect of it just back one more time with the RV not starting. Why'd you decide to utilize that moment
it just, because
again, you only had a small window with these guys, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to understand what your choices were with getting these guys back on screen.
I think in that case, and that episode was written and directed by Tom Schnauz. I think maybe my oldest friend in the world, who I'm still in touch with on a regular basis. He and I met at NYU Film School, and he just crushed it, as he always does, writing and directing. That was a great episode. And I think we were thinking, we need to see how quickly this character of Saul Goodman kind of takes charge of this situation. He's on his knees with a gun to his head. These guys are about to kill him, or at least they're threatening to. I don't know if they would have done it. And then suddenly he turns things around, and it feels by the end of the scene, you guys, you two clowns work for me. And that felt like the right time to plant that flag. And having said that, the truth was more complicated. I think Saul Goodman did live in fear of Walter White, especially toward the end. I think everybody on Earth, not everybody on Earth, everybody in that world did. But yeah, there was a time there where Saul is the consigliere who was kind of in charge of the operation and saying, why don't you, do it this way, don't do that, and you'll get caught. And there wouldn't have been, as he says in that last episode of Better Call Saul, there wouldn't have been a Heisenberg without me. And I think there is some truth to that.
There's no question.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the scene in the finale where Walter White is there with Saul Goodman, and they're, on the process of going on the lam, and we all know Walter decides not to do that, and that's the way Breaking Bad winds up ending. The fact that the question about who Saul Goodman is deep down inside, and Jimmy McGill and how he became Saul Goodman, and the question for this entire series was why? Why was he like this?
Yeah.
For Walter White to be given the line to reveal essentially what's going on, where Saul reveals about the Slip and Jimmy story, and he turns to him and he says, "So you've always been like this?"
Yeah.
And I just was blown away. I'm like, that you guys build up to this slow burn to have Walter White deliver that line is unbelievable. And the shot that Peter set up from down below, he just walks into the frame and delivers that line.
Yeah.
It's so great, man. I'm getting goosebumps just even
man,
friggin'
God
talking
bless you,
about
Rich.
it. It's really, and again, I'm just wondering, did you specifically set this thing up to have Walter White deliver that line when it's all said and done? Because he reveals the answer at the very end.
That Peter wrote that line in there, and Peter wrote and directed that episode.
Yeah.
And we plot these things out together as a team of writers, but not every detail, not every granule in this is a group effort. And I don't remember, maybe we did talk about that in the writers' room, but it's just as likely, if not more likely, Peter just came up with that when he was writing it. Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
I mean,
brilliant.
That's the answer.
Yeah.
There's no escaping it. You've always been like this. So I guess before I let you go, Vince, what is next? What can you tell me about what is next?
I want to keep. I better keep the pedal to the metal because I'm not getting any younger. And I kind of want to. I love this world of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, but I kind of feel like I gotta try something new. I gotta prove to myself I'm not, kind of a one-trick pony. So I've got a new project. It'll be if it, knock on wood, we're pitching it this week actually, and if it goes, it'll be a TV series. It has nothing to do with Breaking Bad, nothing to do with Better Call Saul, and it does not center on an anti-hero. It centers more on someone who is got some issues, got some rough edges, but is essentially trying to be heroic. So I'm being a little coy.
No, I understand that, and I don't want to pin you down to something that you don't want to answer, but I am reading about, is it science fiction related?
And it is, to me, it's, and I grew up loving science fiction.
Well, I mean, you said you X-Files for 7 years.
Yeah, and I would call this will appear when people watch it or read it. They'll say it's science fiction. To me, it's more allegorical, but it'd be safe to say it's science fiction.
Okay, so then, do you think we have seen the last of the Breaking Bad Saul world then, Vince?
Never say never. I don't have any. I mean, not a scintilla of plans to do anything else with any of that world right now as we record this. But if I get my ass handed to me with this new
Oh,
show,
come on now.
you're like, oh man, baby needs
Return
a new
to home base,
new mortgage.
retreat. Come on, no, come on now, man.
Kim Wexler, attorney at law. Come on.
Well, I mean,
Let's go.
she is.
She's in Florida. She's doing all the stuff down there now.
Yeah.
Like we can do this.
I mean, her bar license is not expired. That's the way she's going to be. I guess going to visit Jimmy for
she
one
wants
time.
Outback Steakhouses. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, she's hanging out at the
Better Call Saul
Beach.
meets Raising Arizona. We pop him out of prison. I don't know. I mean,
we got such an embarrassment of riches when it comes to these characters. I mean, Mike Ehrmantraut, Gustavo Fring. It'd be interesting to see more of what was happening with Lalo before, I mean, but having said that, I don't know.
Prequel, a Lalo prequel. There's
Lalo.
so many more
you
seasons
could.
we could do.
I think you would have.
could.
I think you would have every fan that you have, and there are many of them. Lalo. That's
Cartel World.
I think you would be all in on that. I mean, Lalo leading up because you're opening up the. Here I am. I'm pitching you now. I mean, the Salamanca world, obviously the Fring world. You can go in any direction that you want right there.
You could. By the way, he'd be great in his show. He's so charming. He's such a great. Tony Dalton is such a good guy.
My gosh.
And he is
that
just,
smile has got all sorts of evil to it. I'm sure it might be warm in real life, but when when Lalo showed those pearly whites, it was bad news usually for somebody. So
he was so smart and so confident the way Tony was, the way he played Lalo. Because he could literally. That's a character that's so evil, so chaotically.
Where you're like twirling the mustache, like somebody's tied to the tracks.
Yeah. But he was so smart to play it so the reverse of that. He's just
suave, like the most interesting man in the world.
He has no trouble killing people, as we've seen time and time again on the show. But he doesn't not enjoy it, but he's not cartoonish about it. He's just like he's a guy you want to have a beer with, but God forbid you cross it.
You better pick up the tab.
Yeah.
You better don't stiff him with the tab.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I could keep on asking you questions.
I know, me
forever,
too. I have so many questions. Like just one lastly. So the only color in the black and white world was at the end with the flame. Like obviously that's intentional, but what does that signify to you? Like what was the kind of the meaning behind
to
that?
me? And we had a little color in the episode before when he's looking at himself in the you see he was looking at the laptop screen. Carol Burnett, by the way, we could talk another hour about Carol Burnett.
I wouldn't even bring her up.
Yeah, but she's the best. But to me, that's a good catch. The little bit of color in the end of the cigarette at the very last episode. To me, that's hope. That is hope. Not that he's necessarily going to get out of prison. Although I don't know if they keep you in for 86 years, really. Hopefully not. With good behavior, maybe it's 30.
Him with good behavior? Yeah, I don't know about him. Good behavior.
Well, they just let out with the dude who shot Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, Hinckley's out. Then so if Hinckley's out, Saul's got some hope for him, huh?
They're talking about Sirhan. He might get out.
Here we go.
Yeah. So keep a happy thought. But he, it's to me that's hope. Not necessarily that he'll get out, but that these two respect each other again. He always respected her. I think that she respects him. There's some love there. Yeah. It's going to be hopefully they get some visitation going on because it's going to be tricky. But yeah, to me. And by the way, Carol Burnett. God, what an honor it was to work with her.
She's a fan of the show, and that's how
she was a fan of Breaking Bad. Holly and I got to know her and her husband Brian, dating back to, we've known her several years now. And then when this character came up, the opportunity to use this, to have this character, I said to Peter and the writers, "What do you guys think about Carol?" And they said, "Oh my God, could we get her?" And thank goodness we did. We got her, and she is. It was a tough shoot, and she made everyone on the crew happy just by her very presence. Yeah. It was really tough with COVID, with Bob Odenkirk having his heart failure on the set, and it was, earlier in the season, and it was just a real hard slog to shoot this at the final season. And she just brightened everybody's life when she showed up, all the crew. She's just wonderful.
Well, I mean, if I told you when you came in here on our first day in 2014, hey, the season, your show's going to last damn near 10 years, and you're going to get Carol Burnett to finger Saul Goodman at the very end. You'd be like, what?
What?
But that's what happened.
We didn't see that coming.
Carol Burnett fingers Saul Goodman. That's what happened. Vince, you have always been so generous with your time. And again, I can't wait to see what you got cooked up next. We are all in. No question about that. Anytime. Stay in touch. Vince Gilligan, everybody check out Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, all of it. If you have just watched this and you haven't watched it, we apologize. But check it all out again. It's as fresh as the first day you saw it. Thanks for being here, Vince
Thank
Gilligan.
you, Rich.
Back to wrap up the show in a moment. Hey, everybody. Welcome back here to our program. Imagine Vince Gilligan saying we're pitching an idea. We're pitching. Like, who doesn't just buy it the minute he walks in the room?
Right?
Well, Vince is very humble, Rich.
Yeah. No doubt.
He's a very
They're
humble
going to pitch
man.
it. I hope the pitches go well. And I love how he says that, he was kind of sheepish, as you pointed out, that he's, he could write the ticket. He can write a ticket. He's got me. I'm in.
Yeah.
I want to see Vince
anything he says
do some comedy. I think that would be
comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, they do. A lot of the stuff does have a comic bent,
Yeah.
but I do think, though, he's just got a very soulful look at the world and such an incredible grasp on the human condition.
Yeah.
About choices that people make and why they make them and how they regret them or don't regret them. That's what makes a great drama. That's what Breaking Bad is all about. And how did Saul break bad? He said that he doesn't want to be a one-trick pony. That's a hell of a trick. If it's just one, only one. I mean, he truly does have an incredible, and Peter Gould and the rest of the team, a knack of drilling down as to what makes everybody tick and why, and morality. It really is unbelievable.
Great show. Loved it.
Right?
Loved it.
We kind of hit on everything there.
Man. I think we nailed it. The prequel that we need is the Salamancas. That's it.
Salamancas,
that's
right?
the name of the prequel, and we're all in.
Want to do that as a comedy? like live with the studio audience?
It would be funny.
Salamanca.
There would be funny parts to it, but unintentional.
Hi, honey,
course.
I'm home. You got some blood on your collar.
Hey, I just talked someone into taking my teeth so I can fake my own death.
There you go. Hey, everybody. Where have you been? Zoinks.
Salamancas.
I'm in. That's Salamancas, starring Tony Dalton. We'll have him on. Well, anybody from Breaking Bad is welcome here.
Anybody.
Or Better Call
and also,
Saul.
if Reyes Seahorn doesn't win the Emmy, like, what are we doing?
Dude,
what are we doing with
that
award
scene?
shows?
I'm so when I got the email from Liz about the clip that they're showing, and I saw it, and I just audibly went, "Oh man," like that. And Susie's like, "What's that about?" I'm like, "The clip is going to be Kim crying on the tram." I mean, we just showed a clip of a show in black and white in 2022. Nobody says a word. And it tells an incredible story.
Oh, it tells you
Unbelievable.
everything. Yeah.
I'm telling everybody, I mean, if we haven't already spoiled a lot of the show. But anyway, any fan of the show knows exactly what we just did, which is went right down Broad Street there. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial here on the program. Also later this week, Michael Mann, the director of Heat, now the author of the bestseller, #1 on the New York Times bestseller novels list, Heat 2, the sequel. And they do a lot of what Breaking Bad did. They go back in time and flash forward or move the story from the present day on. Amazing. Danny DeVito in studio on Friday. Chrome Soft golf balls. I use them. You should as well. I'm just the caveman out there. Your breaking par confuses me. So I use the regular Chrome Soft. There is a type of Chrome Soft for your type of game. That's why it's amazing. That's why Callaway knows exactly what they're doing. The Chrome Soft's designed for the widest range of golfers. If you're a little bit better, looking for more workability, is the Chrome Soft X. The Chrome Soft XLS gives you a lower spin golf ball, longer shots, firmer feel, still high spin around the greens. Guess what? All of them are enhanced with precision technology, which uses design techniques and manufacturing specifications up to 1/1000th of an inch. That's what ensures they're the highest quality, most consistent, fastest golf balls possible. When you add it all up, it's so simple. Chrome Soft is better for the best, and it's better for everyone. Find out which Chrome Soft is right for you at CallawayGolf.com/Chrome Soft. You ready for tonight, TJ?
Tonight?
Marcel in Brooklyn, New York. You're here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's up, Marcel?
Hey, Rich. Good afternoon, my man. Happy New Yorker. Happy Rich Eisen Show. I've never been watched the show since 2014. You guys are rock.
Thanks, brother.
Yes. And tonight, the New York Mets and the New York Yankees are the Subway Series itself. Finally, I saw those Amazons and the Bronx Bombers coming together. You might be oh, it's true. Do you know the New York Yankees and the New York Mets are true franchise teams? I think they did. What do you think about that?
Well, Marcel, I appreciate the call, and I appreciate your excitement and you tuning in here. I'm unfortunately, I'm totally confused about what he's referring to. All I know is that this is a big series. This is a big series.
Are you back with baseball now?
I started following it around the 7th inning yesterday.
Okay.
The Yankees are absolutely in the toilet.
Scherzer tonight.
And then DeGrom the next. So this is what's happening. Yeah, Turner, stop it.
That's for TJ.
This is what's happening. The Mets are treating this series like the Yankees used to.
Gotta win.
And again, like I said, Garrett Cole got so upset over the weekend. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. There's not a lot of run support coming, so the Yankees had to make that. Garrett Cole had to make that one run stand up, and it looked like he had no hit stuff, and then gave up 4 runs, walking people, giving up big hits, and the Mets look like the World Series team of New York.
They really do. Oh, man.
Trying to temper my expectations.
Brother, you should just go with it.
Nah, I can't.
They're sending Scherzer and DeGrom against a team that's, I heard Michael Kay told this story. Gave a stat that the Yankees over the previous 10 games had averaged 1.9 runs per game and was a batting average of 174. The last time the Yankees had a 10-game stretch with numbers that bad in those categories was 1914.
Woo.
That's how bad the Yankees have been playing lately. And now comes Scherzer and DeGrom.
Yeah, but as we know,
and I'd sign for 1 run each of the next 2 nights right now.
Well, you probably only need 2 against DeGrom because for some reason the Mets cannot score runs with this man on the mound. It's
like
insane.
Seaver back in the day, like Gooden sometimes.
Yeah.
They've always had that, but guess what, man? You got the better team right now, that's for sure. That's for sure. But it's big games tonight.
I feel
big
good.
game tonight.
Big game. Good luck.
It's probably a bigger game for you than for us, but
I want to thank everybody for tuning in right here on the Rich Eisen Show on the radio. We're back here on YouTube tomorrow, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. Thomas Q. Jones will be in studio. We will see you all at that point in time. But we're still here on our YouTube stream. Thanks for playing the music out, Mike.
Honestly,
That's
very,
very
job, Mike.
Kind of used to it.
I get used to it. No, we do. Adam, we don't do for radio.
Was that English?
I don't know what that was.
I play on the last.
I do want to say something here. I do want to say something here, and I don't know how long this is going to last, but as you know, we went away for COVID, for a while, and we did some shows on Zoom for a couple of weeks.
We did,
right?
yeah. We did a couple weeks on
And
Zoom
as you know, a
to start,
ton of television outlets saw the Zooms and saw all that stuff, and I was genuinely concerned that the sports world would go away from premium coverage.
Yeah.
Or the regular coverage that you would normally assume for a broadcast or for a show would now be considered premium. Right? And so everyone would start doing things on the cheap or doing things on the Zoom. Mm-hmm. And I saw just last week, and as of this current statement right now, it is happening that the Portland Trailblazers are going to keep Kevin Calabro and the rest of their top-notch crew off the road, calling games, road games from their studio in Oregon.
Ugh.
And it's just like, was Paul Allen not the richest man on planet Earth? Did he? What's up with that decision? The Trailblazers are just
really
gonna in this day and age now not send their crew on the road, which by the way is exactly where all crews, all announcers get their best stuff. And they also know what's going on with the team because they're on the road with them. Everybody bonds together as a unit on the team, as well as those who cover the team. And those who cover the team get a lot of respect from the players because they're also going on the road too. Right. They're humping it on the road also. So, hey, Trailblazers, you want to be considered a, major franchise in this world where everybody's looking at Damian Lillard to wonder when he's going to tap out on you? And he says, I'm here for you, and I'm here for Portland, and I want to win here? What are you doing?
Yeah, TV and the radio crew.
What are they doing?
That's going to be a delay as well, right?
No, you guys, I do it all the time.
It doesn't matter. You're not there. You're not seeing the crowd. You're not seeing what's going on. And it's totally fine if it's during the pandemic and everyone was operating. Nobody's not operating. Nobody's operating this way anymore.
There, the crew does not all need to be there.
This is the NBA.
No, I get it. The announcers need to be on site. I get that because I do both. But the crew doesn't.
No, I understand. That I understand, and I understand. I totally understand.
I love
I'm talking about the announcers and those that need to be there as part of the crew with the announcers.
Of course.
And so this is the NBA. There's 30 franchises in the NBA, and the Portland Trailblazers are one of them. And coast to coast, they are getting personally, I feel, raw deal that they can't build a winner there. And the fans are so diehard for this team. And Calabro is one of the best play-by-play guys ever. They're lucky to have him. I hope they reverse this. The
backlash is already pretty strong.
It should be. It should be. The fans are all in, and they want a winner, and they love that Dame is sticking around and saying that we can win here. He's one of them. They're one of his, and now suddenly they're basically saying, hey, fans, you're going to get less than of a broadcast because what? They're saving money? Are the Trailblazers tight for money?
They just paid Dame all kinds for an
I don't know.
I don't know.
What is it, the Vulcan Group? Is that what it's called? The Paul Allen's, may he rest in peace, his company? I don't know. Then sell it. I don't understand on all of that, man. That is for damn sure.
Yeah, it stinks.
By the way, normally we'd be off there in 10 seconds, but we could keep going. You want to keep going? I don't know.
I mean, what do you have?
The music's playing.
Do you have anything to
play us out? We'll do it live tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Coming up, Sting.